executive session has been adjourned and we are back in full council session. So thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. Sincerely, thank you. Our next item is something I know we're all excited to hear. It's a presentation of the Gates Mills Boulevard Park design by MKSK. I want to welcome Cullen Mees and Susie Maurer again here with us tonight. Good to see you folks. As an introduction to what we're about to see, which is, I know this team has worked along with their colleagues very hard on. I want to make a very positive announcement for the rest of council. As you may recall, when we began our deliberations about accepting the grant and proceeding with the Gates Mills Trail and Park, I had engaged, along with Mr. Sheehy, with a series of conversations with the county. And this actually goes back to the British administration about, because the trail comprised, in combination with with Gates Mills Boulevard, a multimodal path? What do you call it?
The trail is part of a multimodal.
It's part of a multimodal, okay, multimodal, that was the right word, that we had an opportunity to solicit the county to support the repaving of Gates Mills Boulevard as part of this larger project. Now, repaving Gates Mills Boulevard is, of course, something we have to do regardless from time to time. But because it was adjacent to this park and multimodal path, we had an opportunity to reach out for additional funding from the county. And I received a call just this afternoon, and I am very pleased to be able to tell council that we are now the recipients of an 80-20 grant, as it would be called. It's not really a grant, 80-20 contribution from Cuyahoga County, that when we go to repave Gates Mills Boulevard, that Mr. Sheehy tells me approaches upwards towards $1 million. 80% of that cost is going to be borne by the county. So the value of that is $800,000. He does math better than me. That's why I'm a lawyer, not an engineer. But it's a wonderful benefit when you take that and you add it to the $500,000 ODNR grant and the $250,000 ARPA County receipt that we have for the entrance design and construction out there. We have, a project that has been substantially supported and in some ways even exceeded as a total package when you incorporate the street reconditioning that has to occur. So I am thrilled to be able to share that with council. I want to extend a special thank you to County Executive Chris Ronayne, who has gotten involved with this. He's very excited about our park project and was very supportive of the prior conversations that we had with the county about this. And special thanks to Mr. Sheehy, who worked so closely with me in going downtown and meeting with county officials, where we had some excellent conversations a year and a half ago, whenever we went down there.
Thanksgiving time? Yeah.
It's a while ago. And to see it come to fruition today has just been very exciting for us to see this money come home to Pepper Pike. And
Thank you for your efforts, Mayor and Don. Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations to both of
Yeah.
you. I know you worked that mechanically, grantly, politically, and to bring that home, it's full credit to both of you for doing that.
Thank you. There have been recent conversations in which we have followed up, and it It wasn't a one-time ask. It was, it really needed to be collaboratively worked with the county and demonstrating to them the benefit of their contribution to this project so that they feel good about what they're doing so far as participating in this. So it's terrific, the end result.
Cost-wise for that section of Gates Mills and that section of the trail, this is just awesome. It's unbelievable. I think they're paying for, if money's fungible, they're paying for more than the cost of the trail.
Right, and you're right. Money is fungible, so they basically, since we had to pay for the road regardless,
Yeah.
they're paying for this. So that's really great. I want to welcome this evening Cullen Mees and Susie Maurer again from MKSK, and I turn the meeting to you for your presentation. You tell us how soon you want us to turn out the lights.
Hold on, we're working on the signal here.
Susie, unplug your thing and plug it back.
Okay.
Sometimes it might pick it up then.
The TV doesn't have a signal, huh?
Yeah,
Maybe.
They know it,
We can turn this around. So
we're starting.
What did you do?
I didn't.
What did you do, Kathy?
I don't know. No, it was a remote.
Is it plugged in? Is that HDMI cable?
That's good.
See if it
Yeah.
grabs the Wi-Fi.
Come on. So it's 3. And we were on this today. Michelle and I had no problems today.
Worked earlier this afternoon.
Yes, it did.
Oh, so it's Michelle's, it's
Try to
Michelle.
plug in the HDMI and then turn the TV on and then plug it back in.
Where's Scarlett at? I'm sure she knows.
Yeah.
She can, except we get a Barbie broadcast instead of more.
That's 3 and it's not kind of, so it's got.
Try the second, try HDMI 1.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Or 2.
Because it's split up.
Michelle, were you on one earlier?
Nothing changed. We turned
Nothing
the TV
changed.
off.
I plugged in and she turned it on. I plugged in and we were fine.
And it just worked.
Something different.
Now it's connecting.
Who's that one?
Maybe that phone.
No.
Somebody's phone is connected.
Well, we can turn this facing you all.
Can you cast to it, or do you have to be hardwired?
I do have Wi-Fi, but do you have an Ethernet?
I'm gonna try it too.
Could put it in here too.
Can you just pick whatever?
Here's an idea. Should Michelle hook up her computer, see if that one works? Just to make sure we know where the problem is.
What if you just open the input list?
Why don't
Can you just open the input list?
What's it on now, Jen?
2.
Okay, that's not. I turned it off, Jen. You want to have Michelle connect, see if she has a connection?
It's on the wrong computer.
No single. Technology, this is great.
You only have 3 options here.
What's this thing?
That's the box, at Luna, whatever. they
Component.
sell.
Component, AV, screen share, and
It's an
HDMI 1 and
HDMI.
live TV.
This thing's just taking a while.
Is the component lit up? I can't tell.
Did we have a storm since last?
It was up there
It's
too.
not.
I mean,
There's only
There's no
3
storm.
options there.
it's in right here.
Well, only one is lit up. Or now 3's lit up.
3, yeah. Live TV, which it isn't, HDMI 1,
Proceed.
and screen share.
Put it on one.
We tried one. I think it should be 3, but it's on 2 right now. Jim, how'd you get this?
Push input
I did.
on the top.
Yeah.
And that'll change your spots.
Thank you. Just keep pushing it. I got it. And then hit OK or input again? No, input would move
If
it.
you hit an input, it'll move it.
Keeps telling you to check your internet connection, so, or your input connection. The only way I could do that is taking the TV off the wall, which you're not doing. So,
I
Well,
don't think that moved.
you figure that out.
So who is the best joke they ever heard? That's clean enough to tell.
I mean, it's like,
I have the best joke I ever heard, but I cannot tell it here.
it's your joke.
I mean,
Can you email us the presentation and then I can share, I mean, some people have computers and then we can turn it to the audience maybe and then, I don't know.
Want to email to Michelle and see if you
Why don't-
can.
There's no other games to play with this?
No, I gotta take the
Just a
TV
lost
off the wall
cause.
to check
I
that connection.
was gonna have
And that's
Michelle
not
try
happening.
hers to see if her presentation connects. It did this afternoon.
That's worth a try.
Yeah.
Michelle, you're up.
Okay, give me a second.
You're not going to present now, but let's just see if your computer works.
I got it. I'm just gonna turn this up. I'll make sure we're on HBM3.
Cause Sheila, all you did earlier
It's
was
always worked.
Michelle just hooked in and it came right
Yeah,
up.
it's still on 2 though.
But this
We don't want it.
scratched out behind here. It could be out of the connection.
It won't shift down to 3?
It does, but
Not
then
highlighted.
It's over here.
it highlights it.
I'm right on to my.
Hit OK.
Yeah. I can
It's
hear
going,
you.
it's coming up. It's just
Coming up?
telling you,
Hit okay.
it's showing no
But,
signal.
Jim, what if you reset this thing? Can you reset that thing?
There's no
That's
HDMI.
not it.
Does it
That's
help?
not
The
the,
only HDMI you have is one,
Well, 3 is what we were on earlier and it seems to work okay.
but there has to be a wire
Not
going
lit
to
up.
HDMI.
Yeah, but if it's not plugged in the
Could
back,
be.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's not plugged in the back.
Which by, only one is lit up, right?
Right,
Yeah.
that's the only one that's available.
The other 2 were just empty slots right now.
That's right. There's no signal because there's no wire.
So let me scroll again. So you're saying it has to be 1.
It has to be
It
one.
has to be
Right.
1. Oh, wait,
It's saying that
now it's
there
3
is-
lit up.
See, 3's lit up. Is it, what do the dots mean?
It's just searching
Okay.
first. Okay, try it again.
Yeah, three's.
Okay, here's where the problem lies. We hit OK and nothing.
Now, can we hit OK
What is she
on
trying to
the
just
set?
screen it to it?
What's your email?
Jim, can you accept that with a button on the set?
No, that's what I can't get to.
So you
We have a
Bottom
bad
button,
pattern.
Yeah.
we
The
can
bottom
change
button's
the
a
battery.
power.
But if you click it enough times, the menu
Couldn't get
comes
it.
out. That's what I Googled anyway.
I should be.
Tap the power button repeatedly.
There we go, Jim.
We've been here before.
There we go.
That's it.
This is.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's Michelle's computer.
That's my computer, but not what I have up. That's not what I have up.
Nobody touched the remote.
M-F-A-H-E-R.
That's because she streamed to
What happened?
it. She streamed to it. She took it out of stream.
Huh?
Oh, she's hardwired in now?
she's hardwired.
H-E-R-O-U-P.com.
Now it's not.
It's-
Ready?
I would unplug it if you were plugged in.
Unplugged it.
Not usually.
There we go.
But you never know.
What are you doing, sharing a screen or something?
You have to go in,
Okay, hold on. I know how to fix that.
Gotta go in settings.
I can fix that.
yeah, it's a mirror.
Just to have a mirrored screen instead of extending.
Extend the screen.
Mirror?
You have to mirror the screen on the screen, otherwise you have your desktop.
Two
So
ways.
it's on extended screen, so.
Mirror.
Put a mirror.
There you go.
Go.
So I emailed it to you, but now you need.
Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. So give me a second here, guys.
Back against this.
Okay, let's see here.
I think it's the plug.
We have Michelle go first and then Marcia, can we discuss anything?
Oh, sorry.
Well, they emailed Michelle there.
Let me make sure I
No,
got
I
it.
know.
We'll figure it out, I guess.
This is for PowerPoint.
That's what my grandson's.
Okay, yeah. It's a PDF, okay. So,
Okay.
I believe maybe it's over the next one.
Any still on this one?
What's your function for screen
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Do you need a mouse to click? Here,
We can just
yeah.
use that.
Scott, could you at least hit those chandelier lights or someone?
Which ones are they?
Should be by you, I think.
No, that's, yeah.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Right. Well,
Well, hi.
hi, everyone.
You want some more?
Welcome Cullen and Susie here tonight.
Any questions?
I appreciate everyone indulging us for all the tech issues and also a quick apology for the miscommunication for the last meeting. So
There
we're
was
happy to be
obviously a
here.
communication issue, and don't worry. We're glad you're here
Very
tonight.
happy to be here and presenting and really happy to be on the screen. So, all right. So just a quick recap of where we were when we were with you last. We ran through a number of ideas and kind of initial schematic thoughts for the alignment and the kind of feel and fit of the trail as it would kind of progress down the median. What we're here to show you tonight are a couple of options that we've developed as a result of our internal analysis, some of our cost estimating, and also just trying to get an understanding of what everyone wants this trail to look like when it is installed and complete. So what we'll walk through tonight is what we're calling the budget plan. It's the plan that meets the original budget that we were given for this design. It's a 1.25 mile long trail. So we really wanted to maximize the budget that we had to provide a unique experience throughout the entire length of the trail and provide those moments of feeling like you're within a park, and then moments where it opens up and you're able to see out, and then moments where it kind of comes back in again, and then give you the gateway elements that we reviewed last time. We then have another option, which we're calling the aspirational plan, which really kind of delves into a higher level of planting design in terms of what can be installed here and what would be achievable with maybe a phased approach to this corridor. And then finally, we'll walk through some of the planting, what we're envisioning for the materials and envisioning for the furnishings. So this is one thing that we always struggle with is a 1.25 miles long. So it's a hard plan to show all on one page. So what we're trying to convey here is the breakdown of what we're proposing. So as you move across the page from Brainerd Circle to Landers, but moving through Kerrsdale as a gateway opportunity, the bars at the top indicate the character zones that we're trying to create with this strategy. So This initial strategy it falls within the $260,000 range. It achieves a feel of going through a meadow and that no-mow grass environment that we reviewed last time. And that, in order to kind of maximize that feeling and allow it to stretch throughout the corridor, that's a large percentage. You can see here the pink bars are the flowering meadow areas of the trail. So those are areas where the trail is bordered by a low mown strip, like we had shown last time, and then areas of flowering meadow and no-mow grass that then is ringed by a mown lawn on the outside. We still have those gateway moments at Brainerd and Kerrsdale, and we'll show some views of that in a moment. And then we've really focused kind of tree plantings and canopy trees at those moments where we have the more intense plantings. So those are at the focus at the gateway.
The green areas are the existing wooded areas. So there's quite an asset on the site in those areas because you already have quite a tree canopy coverage. Again, staying within the budget to have put a lot more trees on site, it would have obviously increased the cost quite a bit. So this strategy is really utilizing as much buffer with meadow, and that's again the pink area. And then the yellow areas, as Cullen said, are the gateways that are really the special treatments that have the special perennial here. And then the blue area is the basin, which is the Northeast Ohio property or area.
And so what this is a breakdown of roughly 40% flowering meadow, 30% no-mow fescue, 25% lawn, some perennials, the 481 existing trees, not a small number, and 23 new trees, with the balance of the budget falling to the stone walls, the materials for some of the seating areas, and the furnishings. To our next plan, which is an aspirational or could be a phased plan, where we really lean into increasing the canopy. So I'm gonna just quickly scroll back and forth. So anywhere that you see this pink, which was the flowering meadow, has now been broken up by areas of more forested and kind of understory canopy tree plantings, native shrubs along with some of the native meadow, and then really extending that wooded area in the center. So you get these moments, again, of opening up and then feeling like you're going through a woodland area to create interest, to create visual diversity as you're going along the trail.
And a lot more
also-
shade too.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's really cooling the environment along the path. But yes, it's creating a lot more like shady pockets. Obviously, as you can see, this is more expensive, but
And is the principal driver just more trees of the extra 250?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and that's 80% of it, 70% of it, just the ballpark? And
It's all of it,
all of it.
yeah.
So you start with the basic plan, add trees, and you get to this.
exactly.
Basically, got it.
Yeah, all
Okay.
the other components are the same.
Got it, okay.
So we have nearly 200 new trees in this plan, within
And
that corridor.
I should add, it also includes native shrubs because the shrubs can get some height to them too. So we're really the second plan, the aspirational one, is more trying to get a little bit more screening through trees and shrubs.
So doing the budget plan is a no regrets move because doing the aspirational plan, you're not ripping stuff out. Is that true or not?
We're not-
You mean taking existing trees?
Yeah, in other words, when you go to the aspirational plan, you're not removing things you planted under the budget plan and replacing them, or are you?
No, the only thing we're reducing in the aspirational plan is the amount of seed. So we're reducing the meadow seed so that we only have now a couple little pockets of meadow seed, and in where the meadow seed was in the original plan.
So when I say no regrets, meaning you're not ripping stuff out from the budget plan to replace it with the aspirational plan. We're not wasting money.
Are you talking
Oh,
about
I
if
see
we
what
did
you're
budget
saying. So
first?
if
and
If we
then
did, if we
moved
did
to
budget
this?
first,
You got it.
you're not
We-
undoing the budget features, right? Or not?
We would
Only in some of the
probably,
no-mow areas.
yeah, but.
But that's a
we're
fairly
flexible
small
there. We
cost.
could also, a plan for those pockets and plan for those to be mowed areas.
So my point is, to your earlier comment about doing this incrementally,
Mhm.
we could start with budget, or budget plus 1, or budget plus 2, or budget plus 3, and
Yeah.
that would work.
Yep.
Okay.
My question is, how big would the trees be in this aspirational
When they're installed or when they mature.
when they're installed?
We generally
Three.
is 3.5 inch caliper, so,
Size trunk.
15 to 20,
How about height?
about 15 feet.
15.
Some 20 if you've got a really good one in plane. So, yeah.
And you said what caliper? I couldn't hear.
3.5.
3.5, okay.
We typically, as a rule of thumb, don't try to go any lower than 3 when you're installing trees. They
I'm
just,
sorry.
we typically, as a rule of thumb, don't try to go any lower than 3. They feel like toothpicks when they're installed. They're just not worth the money.
Okay.
But at 15 foot, you have an instant
It's
canopy,
impact.
if you will, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
okay.
So.
So it's not necessarily all for the next generation. I would get to enjoy a little bit of the forested.
So, yeah, that's the primary, as to the questions, the primary change between the two plans is just trying to add some additional oomph, from the structure of those trees and really add some variety to the feeling of being open and closed within the corridor. We don't, I'll anticipate this question, we didn't want to tree the whole corridor. That would feel a little bit kind of cramped. And also, one of the nice things about being on a trail is getting that variety of views of kind of going into a nice canopy and then seeing the light ahead of you and coming out into it and coming back in. So as I was driving here, just looking at a number of the trails that are running along the parkways and anywhere in this area, it's a similar approach where you're trying to create that variety of experience and make it really a nice strolling condition. So for those high impact areas at the gateways, we really are gonna go ahead with, rather than doing seeding, these will be planted perennials, these will be immediate impact. We're looking to stretch out the interest and create that full season appeal with a variety of native perennials you can see here, as well as some bulbs in early spring. So
It gives you it pretty much gives you as much of a bloom as you can have all year round. You have your spring bloomers, your summer bloomers, and your late fall bloomers, or your fall bloomers, so.
And these are some of the lowest maintenance, but also longest blooming plants that are available, that are still native.
Yeah, they're all native, meaning they don't really need all that extra, they don't need any extra water except for like when they're initially planted and established.
And where are the perennials located in this plan?
So we'll have some views of them later, but these
Okay.
are planned for the gateway area. So really, so we can pack them into an area and get the most impact from them. We don't want to spread them out all over the corridor. They wouldn't feel as impactful. There are perennials in the meadow mix. So you would get flowering from that as well. But this will be really, it will look more garden-esque at those entries.
And do the deer enjoy your perennials?
These are all deer resistant.
Yeah.
So they will, here, I'll say it this way, everyone knows what deer are like. They will not go for these first and they will not go for these second.
That's true.
So they would go for everything else first. I can't ever promise that the deer won't eat anything.
You've had good experience though. I mean, obviously it's a big issue here because
Yeah,
anything unprotected gets eaten. And so it's,
yeah.
if they're gonna get eaten, it's really a waste of money to, yeah.
You
Yeah.
won't see these mown down.
I've never seen the daffodils or the allium or the rudbeckia or the echinacea get eaten by deer, so,
Okay.
or the coreopsis,
No, these are not there.
or the dropseed.
Give them a hard winter. So, and then to that kind of how we want to continue this through. So this is some images and some of the blooming species that would be within the native flowering meadow mix. So one of the benefits of kind of going with this strategy is that it does provide a buffer, and it's a more immediate buffer within the first few years. So you've got a 3 foot to 5 foot kind of variety of flowers and grass stems coming up. So you're getting, for the quarter length that we have, a lot more of that kind of screening and feeling of separation for the full length than if we were going to try and do this with trees, which would immediately, well, you can see we have 200 now. It would be another probably 600 trees to fill in all of the areas within and we really don't want to create that character either. We're looking to try and create something that feels like there's a variety of experience. These bloom throughout the fall. That's part of the selection of these mixes. They are really nice and kind of show throughout the seasons. They improve soil composition. They have deep root systems that allow for stormwater infiltration. They provide nutrient recycling, so they're kind of self-sustaining in that way. They're adapted to these areas. They provide habitat and promote biodiversity through providing shelter and food for birds and insects and bees. And they save water, don't require fertilizer for long-term survival. And really at the end of the day, this is a lower maintenance and lower investment kind of approach for the whole corridor.
Question. So, you know, a lot of the residents will be walking onto the trail from their houses. Will they be able to step over this and onto the trail, you know, where they need to? Because that's a big, you know, they want access from their house rather than going to a gateway. Can they do that successfully?
Exactly.
So we plan for areas all throughout the corridor where the mown area actually comes right up to the trail. So people can access the trail from all sides throughout the corridor or through any of the tree areas, which would be mown as well. So that was intentional so that people can get through there. And, you know, we're happy to work with this group and the mayor and determine what's the right cadence for that when are people want to be able to access the trail. But right now, you know, it's every couple of houses, so it's not huge areas that you're walking to get onto the trail. And so then the other mix that we have with this, and this is really more just to reduce mowing, is a no-mow fescue mix that runs alongside some of the meadow mix. These are interchangeable in terms of cost, but this just provides another texture. It also provides an area where you can reduce the amount of mowings that's needed. They only require 2 mowings per year, usually at the beginning of the season and end. Has some of the same benefits of the meadow. But the other nice thing about this is it's also something that you could achieve with just one. So if you decided you wanted to test this out, and we've done this with some of our clients, you know, rather than going with the fine testing, you could test areas where you're just gonna let the lawn kind of grow and mature. Most lawns are fescues, a majority of fescues anyways, and so you can achieve this look with that approach as well.
Does this require watering?
Because it's longer, it has deeper roots and it has more resiliency to drought.
Do we have any concern for people who have dog owners primarily, I guess, with ticks and those kind of issues with these high grasses?
So it's a fair question. And yes, you could have more ticks in the higher grasses, but we've also accounted for that along the trail. So there's a mown area on both sides of the trail.
Okay.
It's 5 feet on each side.
Yeah.
And that's a standard detail that every metro park uses as well for, you know, dog paths as well.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And you guys have used this with other clients, I assume, right?
Yes.
Just I'm asking because a resident, I believe last month, mentioned that his experience had not been great in terms of, you know, weeds encroaching and things like that. But what's been your experience?
If you reduce the mowing on it, it's supposed to be a lot better for anticipating those weeds. So I don't know what his or her procedure was in
Yeah.
taking care of it, but a lot of times, you know, the maintenance of it too has to be
Okay.
done right. And this maintenance it's very low maintenance, but sometimes if you over maintain it, that could cause problems too.
All right, and so then we'll get to the really beautiful elements of the proposal as well. So this is a kind of smattering of what we've envisioned for just bolstering what's already out there. So there's a lot of maple, there's some dawn redwood, cottonwood, some oak out there right now. We're looking to just further diversify that canopy, add even more natives to that, add some variety in fall colors. So you've got the black gum there, or the shagbark hickory, provide some nice oranges and yellows. You can have some really stately trees with bur oaks at some of those impact moments. And then some of other elements of kind of the river birch with its multi-stem. We really were thinking about that for the gateways. And then dotting in some of the spring interest of having spring flowering understory trees along the whole length of it.
Did you say cottonwood or did I misunderstand?
No,
Not on here, but there is one cottonwood along the.
Okay,
path. It's
along,
really
the
stately.
print is so tiny, I can't read it from here, so I
Okay.
couldn't see what the, do any of these give like fruit or, like, are they going to be messy or create issue? They're all,
Bur
Including
oak would
nuts.
have
like
acorns.
acorns, okay,
Yeah,
because
so
those
that's
attract a lot of deer.
Similar to there's already a number of oaks out there, so
Okay.
you've got that already.
We're already there.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, all of these are also the trees that we use the planting plan as a from Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District. These are all the trees that are already planted out there for the basin area too. So we're trying to stay really true to the character of the site and
Mirroring,
what's native to the
Okay.
area. The only other tree that would have berries is the service berry, but I guarantee you the birds are gonna eat every one of those berries off before they even fall, because that is a coveted berry that a lot of people make jam out of, and you can never get to it because the birds eat it first.
Thank
But
you.
if you do, they're delicious. They taste like blueberries. They're fantastic. But yeah, sadly, the birds are faster than us. And then, so this would be for that aspirational plan, bolstering some of those meadow areas with the kind of backbone of having some lower shrubs. So we always want to make sure we maintain kind of sight lines through. We don't ever want anything that feels like it's kind of imposing on the site. So these are all lower growing dwarf species with the native. They would provide another level of interest in the winter. So especially with like winterberry or early season witch hazel that blooms very early. You'd just be stretching out your interest throughout the season. The inkberry is a nice evergreen for this area.
And pruning plan for those, is that something the maintenance department would need to take into consideration?
Most of these, well, actually, all of these are dwarf.
Yeah,
So-
so they
So they will
wouldn't
not
really
get-
need it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and then now we're gonna get into the views for the gateway areas. So starting at Brainerd Circle, we are trying to, help visualize what these special planting areas would look like. So the more colorful plants where my cursor is moving, those are our special perennials. And again, those are not any of the seed versions. These are the ones that, we're gonna plant and really establish for that seasonal effect. Then
Are you showing us the budget view or the aspirational view?
these are the same for both views,
Okay.
for both
Alright.
plans. So as we go through these views, you will have this regardless of which
Okay.
plan you choose. We have these mounds, which they're very subtle. They're only 3 feet high or 30 inches high at the very top portion. And the nice thing is that we're able to use a lot of the fill that you're taking out from your Lander Road Sidewalk project. So that is really helping us a lot with our budget too, is to create these beautiful mound features, which help with buffering and sound attenuation and all the items to give the path and the homeowners more privacy from each other. And then the stone, as you can see, these are sandstone dry stack pieces, which this might be a little better view. I'll zoom in a little bit.
Is that something you can walk over and sit on?
Yes.
Okay.
So as you can see, our modeling it's all to scale. So you can see right over here in this area, they're easily used as seating elements. The area where this figure is standing is more of a sandstone gravel material. So we only have little areas for that. Those are like little pull-off areas off of the asphalt path.
Specialty that
Yeah.
they encourage pausing and kind of
Mhm.
stopping and
Mm-hmm.
resting, so.
Yeah, and then again, in both plans, you'll see, so in the budget plan, we added 23 new trees. In the aspirational plan, we've proposed 183 trees. But in both of these, you'll notice, both gateways, regardless of which plant, we still have some degree of shade, which we call canopy trees, and understory, which are more of the fruiting, flowering, like early spring burst of color trees.
Can I get those numbers again? I heard you say 183 in the aspirational.
Exactly, and 23 in the
23
budget plan.
in the
Yes,
budget.
yes. Okay, so now at the Kursdale Gateway, so I don't believe you've seen these views before in our last presentation. This is where we're really showing what the character gets. This is in our mind, and after speaking with you in the last couple of meetings, we've really learned Kursdale is more of the community entrance to the site where people are walking. So we're trying to prioritize shade, community seating. There might be future moments for, placing like little monuments or plaques in there if that is so desired. And so this is the area where we're trying to treat as one of our special moments. And as we get into the next slide here, you'll see, we're really trying to create a place for everybody in the most natural way possible. And there's sandstone boulders, which are a little bit more rounded in shape that can be used more for play or seating or even just as a sculptural aesthetic idea. And then there's, again, like slabs that you would see to create the retaining walls, and then also for individual seated areas. And again, because of the nature of this being a gateway, a lot more of the special perennial plantings.
And I'm sorry, what is the material that's off the asphalt?
Yes, that is, so I'll get to that right here. It's this one right here, and it's called Brassfield Fine. So it's a very small sandstone aggregate, and it's similar to like a limestone screening, which is often what's used for these sort of paths. Yeah.
They tend to lock together, just the natural kind of cleft of it locks together, but you can also use stabilizers on it to even lock it in more like pavement. So,
So they work really well as just like a very stable, nice traction. And we only have that at the Kursdale Gateway, and also at some pull-offs between Brainerd and the first crossover. Again, these boulders here, these sandstone boulders, are more of what we're picturing for Kursdale, just for some play areas. And then similar to what you have, but not quite. So we've been talking to the stone suppliers, and obviously they can't recreate this because this is probably from 1900, and nor do we necessarily want to recreate it exactly. Our sandstone suppliers, or any sandstone suppliers, can create this, the size and shape relatively in the same dimensions, but the ones we are proposing to put in the site would be a little bit smoother on the top and the bottom. So they would be a bit more clean, have more of somewhat contemporary feel, but then the faces would have more of a natural look to them. And they would be sawn cut, not feather wedged. So this image shows, they almost look like dynamite holes in them, and that's back before they had a lot of machines to do all the cutting, because these were cut back when manpower was used. So these, the ones we're proposing would be a little bit more cleaner and contemporary looking. And then the Kenneth Lynch Central Park Settee, we only have about 3 of those going in, so not many. But this is like the quintessential seating element that came out of the World's Fair that you see in Central Park and in the cultural gardens, and it just seems very fitting here.
Why just 3?
Because there's
Yeah,
a
the
lot
other
of places to sit on the.
Yeah, but not with a back and not,
We could definitely put more in.
I would argue for less. If we took out those, if we shortened up the walls and took out the stones for now, could we put them in later and use that money towards more trees? Like, because I think as long as we could modify it later and add that later rather than adding trees later, like what could we save? Because I saw $110,000 was towards the stone and aggregate, but we could put some of that money towards trees and maybe in the future expand on that if people like it versus expanding on trees in the future. So like shifting the money from the stone to the trees.
Yeah, it's much more challenging so trees planting is kind of like the area for the trees. So it's 10 foot round roughly that you're going to disturb, ameliorate the soil and put the tree in. For these stone wall features, the area around them also gets disturbed. Bringing them in takes large equipment.
Okay.
So
Then my other question is, what's the minimum amount that we can have in stone then?
I love the stone, so I would have more, but go ahead, Kathy.
But to put some of that money towards trees, because I think people like the greenery and the shade because it's so hot in the sun. It's like on a 90-degree day, if you're walking in the sun, it's really hard to walk the whole way.
Which begs the question, which we're not at yet, and I understand, the aspirational plan, should we be moving more, not necessarily to the full aspirational plan? This has been a concern of mine for a long time, but should we be moving more towards putting more of those trees in?
Yeah.
So if we have 183 trees and we're 160 short.
Let's let them, I'm sorry, let's
No,
let
but
them
I'm saying-
finish and then let's have that.
We can,
Yeah,
but I really think it's something we have to focus on.
I agree.
I think they were on slide 14.
I also want to, Kathy, to your point, so we have 6 stone walls, and they're all happening at the gateways. So there's 2 at the Brainerd,
Right.
1 on each side of the path. And then there are 4 at Kerrsdale, 1 on each side of the path on both the north and south side of the Kerrsdale cut.
So at that Kerrsdale cut, do we have any concerns? Looks like a pretty open area and there are a lot of people who live there. Do we have any concerns that it might be a burden on the people who currently live there? Where the one at the Gateway, I don't feel quite as much that way because it's opening up to a circle, City Hall's there. There are a few homes and I don't want to make light of that, but I wonder about the people who live at that Kerrsdale cut. Are we?
A burden that it's maybe too
Too many
focal.
People gathering in front of their
Gathering
homes.
areas.
Unfortunately, I mean, I see the pros and cons. I'm just putting it out there as something to think about for the people who live right there.
I will say, I when I saw the stones in the path there, although lovely, that to me, it looks more like a playground of sorts. And maybe it's just the rendering and I'm misunderstanding it. But I do agree that is very much in the heart of a residential area as opposed to a little bit further towards City Hall where it's less.
More of a park.
So I don't know that maybe we want to rethink that slightly as to the intention of that. And we do have Pepper Pike Park not far from there. Like that is our true gathering place.
Right.
How much gathering do we want to happen on the path? I see this as more of an amenity for, recreation and things like that. So Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and to be clear, not as to like the plantings, the flowers, which
I think they're
look
lovely.
beautiful.
It's more the gathering space.
Just, yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah, like
thinking it through
personally, I
real
live on
time.
Gates Mills Boulevard, and I would not want people gathering in front of my house.
Yeah.
You know, it's privacy issues and safety issues, and I think we should talk to those residents, especially where it's happening, and I personally would take it out.
Yeah.
Because it's their homes, and they didn't buy it with that in front of there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, we're totally receptive to the idea of a couple of options that are coming in my head here. We could make it look very much like Brainerd Circle, and it's more of a directed path that goes
Yeah.
through there. Our thinking here was, again, we're always trying to create moments of interest, a reason to keep going, a reason to kind of discover the next thing on these trails. We could reduce it in scale. One of the reasons we had put the boulder scramble there, we felt like that was something that people were really responding to in our last presentation. And it's not a play area. It can sometimes be seen more as like an art sculpture. But again, this is what you guys want to see here. So we can bring this down in scale, or we could really make it a directional element. So we're happy to kind of take that feedback and take a look at this intersection. again.
Another place you could move it to would be kind of like more towards Ursuline, where they have that wide area where all those trees went missing. But I don't know if that's
The idea, this is kind of in the middle, right? The idea was it's kind of a middle point
Yeah,
and
so
the trees
maybe-
intersecting, so people are gonna enter the trail there
Mhm.
because those intersecting streets, they're gonna walk up their side street, cross the street and go. So it's like another entry point.
Yes.
And
But it's
I
bigger
like-
than our,
I like that. I think the boulders are an interesting feature. I could see, kids jumping from boulder to boulder and just as a pause place before you kept your journey. So
That was
And-
kind of my point, Jim, is that you would have that play area right on top of the homeowners, right there by Kursdale and Gates Mills.
You're
I
about
don't know
200
if they
feet
would
away
love
from
that.
houses there. It's quite a ways away. Just to interject, I think one thing you have to remember is you are creating an entry point for the trail. The trail crosses that intersection. People are going to gather there. So that's going to be the spot. If two people are, we're going to say, hey, we're going to meet you at the spot. That's the spot for this whole neighborhood, for Kursdale, Edgedale, the Kursdale going on the other side, people walking up Fairmount, people walking on the trail. This is kind of the spot that's safe, it's quiet, it's got good visibility. This is where people they're not really going to want to congregate at Brainerd Circle here. Nobody actually lives here at the Circle. This is the spot. I mean, whether or not you put any feature there or not, this is where people are going to gather.
well,
So that's
being-
I'm just trying to be objective.
being someone who lives here, I don't know that it's necessarily true. There are a lot of streets that will funnel into the top part of the circle. I currently meet someone to walk regularly who lives that direction. So I don't know that that's really true if you actually live here. The only comment I was making was not that it's not attractive or couldn't be a pleasant experience. I just want to be fair to the people who live there. This is a lot more hard surface. It, at least visually in this picture, appears to be more hard surface than we have at the main entry point or the first entry point. And it's not that it's not pretty or interesting. I just didn't know if the scale of hard surface and what that might do might be, not that we shouldn't have an entry point, we certainly should, and it should look pretty, and I like the flowers and some of the stone. This just seemed maybe a bit more, at least food for thought, of something than we should put in front of some of these people's homes who just happen to live there. And, we're not necessarily being considerate of their concerns.
I think part of it too is our landscape architect is actually enlarging the view so that you can see it. But if you looked at this sort of from plan view, this is actually fairly small. The footprint of this is small. And even the amount of stone wall, I mean, this is 8,000 feet of path, and we're probably going to have just a few hundred feet total of stone wall. So in terms of percentage, it's not like you're going down this thing and it's stone wall for miles. It's,
I'm not
a mile.
complaining about the stone wall.
Right.
That's not the issue. I don't have an issue with the stone wall.
But I'm just
saying
but
that
that
it's a lot of hard surface.
right. But the footprint of this thing, they're just, it's sort of distorted based on the view that they're showing, because they want to show you the detail.
Mhm.
But if you're looking at it from above, it's really not very large. Do you have a good view from just from like a zoom in on your?
How many feet wide of path do you think of, not at the entrance, but where it widens out?
So it's about 10 feet. I'll give some, so it's 10 feet here. Ooh. Sorry. I don't know if that is-
Just click away from that.
There's an X on
Okay,
the
there we go.
Oh, no.
I'm not driving my own computer. There we go. Okay, so it's 10 feet here. So we're roughly about 30 feet at widest, another 10 feet at narrowest.
Okay, so 30 feet at the main width. That's the only part I was talking about, not the 10 feet, not an additional some feet. I just pointing it out as something we should discuss.
We can make it smaller, certainly.
And maybe-
And like a mini version, and maybe it's just like a really,
Yeah,
a
and
pull off.
I'm just adding it to the list
If
of,
there were trees on the other side of that, then that could block it from,
Yeah, definitely.
the,
Mhm.
you
And
know, being
actually-
right in people's, front yard.
And one of the things we should mention, so the tree that Cullen's pointing to right now, that is that massive cottonwood. It's gorgeous. It provides so much shade, and it is like an icon of the site, and that's why we were trying to celebrate it.
Mhm.
That provides a tremendous amount of canopy coverage too. So I think our renderings don't act like we're limited sometimes to recreate nature in these renderings. So
sure,
yeah.
and I'm not criticizing. I think it's very pretty. I just was pointing out a neighborhood possible concern.
Definitely. Very good.
And Susie, these are some of the areas too where we are going to be able to do some additional mounding.
Mhm.
So some of that sight line, some of that concern from the resident side will be cut off by some modest mounding as well.
We also have to be careful because of the fall. In a good way, it will look different in fall, winter, when the leaves drop, different times, so we have to also think of that.
Do we have any evergreens planned in or no? Just the native?
We tend to stay away from the evergreen uprights on trails. Again, it's more of a safety issue, places for people to hide behind. We do have evergreen shrubs
The island.
proposed in the aspirational plan, so that we can provide some of that screening and all season kind of structure. So, and the mounds provide that as well. So that's another reason for the mounds and the walls. They're there year round to provide some of that buffer as well.
I was going to say the one thing about this is when people start at the first end, the gateway, this is the first place really they have to kind of rest and sit down. Is that the idea?
Yeah, there would be one other spot between Brainerd and Kersdale that has like a pull off for seating on a ledge wall. But yeah, this really is the place kind of to.
And Don, in this area, how wide is the median again? 110?
The grass, I believe, is 130 feet wide.
30, and so it's 30 plus 40. So
So you've got roughly 50. It's not symmetrical necessarily, but you have 40 or 50 feet on either side of this, of lawn, trees, shrubs, before you get to the houses. And the houses on Gates Mills, as you know, generally sit back quite a ways from the roadway, from the right of way.
Could you show me where the benches would be located on that? Like where are those seating options going to be? And with the stones that we're putting in that are potential benches, have you given thought to like how many feet before there is a rest spot for somebody? Maybe explain that a little bit.
So we have the actual benches with the backs, the kind of bench benches at Brainerd Circle, Kersdale,
Okay.
and then we also have one down at Lander. So we've limited to those 3 spots for the actual product benches because products are kind of expensive, so we're trying to be mindful of that. And then there is a pull off right in the middle here, I believe, with for benching. Or actually, no, all of the walls are at Brainerd Circle and Kersdale. So really, those are the moments where you have the other
You
seating.
had, yeah, I think it was.
So there isn't any-
There was intermediate, no, sorry. There's intermediate pull-ups for just like a bench moment in between. So this plan does not show little benches on it, but they would be roughly kind of right in here. You had another moment
We have moments,
over here,
yes.
and there was one by the Stone Brook area, just to kind of overlook. So, but sorry,
The actual,
scale is not.
yeah, the actual benches, we only have 3 in our cost estimate, just because we're trying to meet the numbers. But there are pull-offs for potential benches if you wanted to add
If we were
different
to-
ones
okay.
to it.
Okay.
And those pull-offs are made out of that, this brass being fine, so there's areas for them.
And they're about $3,000 a piece, the benches?
That's correct. A little more, about 3,500.
And the stone provides some seating though too. Oh, no.
Just in the
She
benches.
said
I've learned
That's
that.
only at the entry points.
Oh,
That's what So I have to admit, that would be easy enough to add then, right?
Yeah, they're easy enough to add more. I want to circle back to the question of like, can we swap out cost for walls for cost for trees? It's pretty easy math. So, we have about 100,000 in, walls right now.
Thank you.
Mature tree with it, so 3.5 caliper with all of its soil and all the amendments and the warranty that comes with it is about $1,000 a tree, give or take for species, but that's a good, nice round number. So you can get about 100, if you swapped out all the walls, you get about 100 trees. In our math, that seems like it's a loss. You're not getting, you're in our 183 tree, plan, you're getting that variety of having the walls and that texture and that year-round interest, along with the stability of that tree canopy. But that's just to be very blunt about the question. That's
Your walls are integrated into the overall design, and all the plantings are integrated with the walls, and the grass is integrated with the walls, so it's just to take those out is
You don't have to take them out completely. I
almost starting over.
shorten
I don't think
them
it
so
needs
we
to be
can,
either or, right?
can,
The trees
Get
are
more
the easiest
trees.
things to plant throughout the year.
Yeah.
So you could do that as your budget permits down the line. You could put in 50 trees for 5 years and accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
well, and we do talk about how I sometimes question it, but about how we have quite a lot of money, so maybe we do want to start at least working our way significantly into the aspirational plan. If we actually have so much money, I think there's something to be said for doing this right and not stretching it out
I
forever.
think the one thing we all
I-
agree on is how much we want the trees,
Well,
right?
I think trees are probably
trees.
one of the highest value things that we could do in our city. And I think that they're universally appealing to people.
I completely agree with Melanie.
Have you shown us all the views?
I know we
Wonderful, but
Yes?
to the point
I have a
of
question.
the aspirational and the budget, you're looking at a $250,000 spread.
I understand.
It's money, this is not catastrophic.
300.
It's different.
It's real money.
To be able, it's real money.
It just,
And
I
we
mean,
just
this
walked
is why I
into
wanted to talk about it all as
$800,000
one
A trillion
project.
here, a trillion there, pretty soon.
It's something that this project, because there will be disruption to people
So-
and all this other stuff. This is an opportunity right now to
Yeah.
reasonably get this project in and done.
So
And I don't think it's going to materially affect the city dollar-wise to do the whole thing.
I
So
don't
there's
know.
there's one other consideration in my mind is, so absolutely the budget plan, I love it, go for it, is on the incremental plan, my suggestion would be taking a section where they have the aspirational plan, doing it, I don't know if that's one of the green sections or part of it, including the shrubs, including everything else, see how it works for a year, and then building on that, just to make sure it hits the spot, rather than doing the whole thing all at once and saying, there's some benefit to make, and then adjusting as we go forward, and maybe do the rest of it next year and with an adjustment. So
I like that idea. I wanted to ask a question though. The 2 numbers that you gave us for the budget plan and the aspirational plan, is that all in? your fee plus installation plus the materials, that
So
all
this is
in?
construction cost. Our fee is separate to this.
But
Our
yeah.
fee is already contracted.
Yes,
so-
but this
Okay.
is all in, to answer your
Yes.
question. Yes,
Yeah.
it's installation.
One other thing just to put out there, and this is just something to think about, is that this is a legacy project, and we might want to consider whether there's a way to have people in the community participate in something that's, you know, so valuable to the community, so valuable to people who live here, so valuable to our housing values. It's just something to put out there.
And it's our centennial.
It's our centennial. I know I mentioned trees as a possible centennial project sometime back, and I think it's a valuable project for our community.
Can we turn the lights on now, or are you done with your presentation?
We're done. If
Okay.
You're done.
What's, what, can I ask, what if we wanted to sort of start closer to budget and work towards aspirational, what would be your best recommendation of how to accomplish that?
And part of that, to build on that, is what is a cost-effective chunk that you would do where we could all say, there's a chunk done, we have a good sense of what this is going to look like if you would fill out the rest of it. And I don't know.
Does that make sense?
Does
Or would
it-
that be weird to have like a chunk look one way?
Well,
a
they-
chunk
well,
look
they-
another
they have
way?
a- yeah, I know. If they have-
Turn around the chunk of
they have a-
light. Yeah.
They have a stretch that's a
Right,
color,
right,
right?
yeah.
So I'm thinking one of those stretches or part of those stretches, you'd say, we could do this as representational of what the total aspiration would be, and I don't know.
Yeah. So I think it will, we're starting to kind of mince budgets here. So I would say the center, that would be my recommendation, is really hit the center, because you're gonna have the benefit of kind of building off of this wooded area. Just looking at the trees, throughout the corridor, you have this wonderful LA here. So that already gives it structure. Some of the trees down at the end by the district project are a little bit smaller. There, some are doing better than others. That would be an area that really we plant some really good soil base, make sure the nutrient levels are right, get those trees well established, and that would be my recommendation if you were going to do it incrementally. Is really hit the emphasis here in the center.
So right around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Don,
So that.
quick question.
Yeah.
What would, I understand that cost is, a real, topic for people to talk about. What would it take to actually bid this thing? So we have real numbers that we're dealing with instead of speculative numbers.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, because it would give you, right now, we're really trying to put this thing together based on sort of theory and good cost estimating, but maybe
Right.
not totally accurate. If we find out that the trees are $700 or $1,300, that might change the
Right,
thought.
that's what I'm
I
sitting there
think
thinking.
if you can bid the base, if you generally like the appearance, and these are, you can break it apart item by item a little bit, but bid the base contract and then bid an alternate with the additional trees, then you kind of have a better feel on what that actual number is. Are we high or low a little bit on the stone features, or are we high or low on the tree features? And some of it's, as it's hard to look at the crystal ball, but there might be some species of trees that for some reason next spring you can't get, then you're doing those kinds, those things happen. So I think you might, if you could move forward and bid it with an alternate, so that you would know, okay, what would the total package actually cost? Then I think, to Councilman Lay's point, like maybe we do just a chunk, maybe it's that middle chunk. You can peel that cost and say, hey, that's a $80,000 spend. Let's do it.
Right. Then we'll actually
Then
know.
I think you're really working with real numbers, as opposed to we're trying our best a lot of times on these estimates to hit the numbers, but you could be high or low on a couple of the things. I know you guys are really trying to get good numbers from the stone and talking directly to quarries, but until they actually bid it, you don't always have a perfect number.
And this is designed to be able to do what Mr. LeMay says, right? To be able to start with the basic and then go to the aspirational without any
Yes.
any effect on the final product.
Right, you could come in and put in the additional plantings in a phased way. But doing it as an alternate has a lot of benefits. Because you can then make the decision of just exactly how many you want to purchase at that time. Like it's, and you also have a really good estimate of like what it'll take to, if you wanted to come back in a phased way. Also, you'll get the benefit of the contractor bidding a higher quantity of trees, which will just order scales, for order of magnitude, you'll get a better price on, so.
Are there opportunities for tree grants with this, Don? Like with the, I know that there've been some matching.
Yeah, they're
spends.
it's sporadic. I don't know necessarily that there's anything like today that we could necessarily go after a tree grant, but there are opportunities throughout the year. It might be a situation where you could take advantage of one. Maybe between now and say next spring, we find an opportunity to get a $50,000 or $100,000 grant for trees. We can maybe fill in some of those gap spots.
Add to that aspiration.
I think anything that we could do to bolster that would be a great decision, because if we could bolster it this year and bolster it again next year or the following,
Right.
I mean, we could really make some good progress.
Yeah, and I think that strategy, that's why the landscape architects are here to help us with that strategy too. Like if you were only going to plant 70 trees, where would you plant them? And make those decisions based on how they're going to survive and how to get the biggest impact, biggest bang for the buck.
But if we know we're planting trees anyway, there's no reason to not start looking for that now.
We're kind of always looking for tree
whether
grants.
wherever we land.
Right.
No, but I mean, we usually have, I know we've had these $5,000 matching grants for trees.
There's been some
And this-
smaller ones, right?
Yeah, and this is on a much larger scale. I remember we've had a few of those and they're great, but that won't make much of a dent.
How much is the aspirational goal around Kerrsdale? If we did the 2 green sites, how much is that?
Just for including the stone, the trees, and the plantings? Or?
So the basic plus the aspirational around Kerrsdale. How much?
So Kerrsdale's the same in both.
Yeah.
But the green on each side. So
Oh,
you have red there.
what would it be
How
to
much more
add
is
these
to add
areas?
the greens?
Oh, geez. Okay.
We
I would
would-
say it's probably about a third of the cost, just looking at it proportionally on your bud.
Because if we really are thinking about the Boulder idea, maybe on a smaller scale, the trees need to be there. You can't just not have them there for the
Yeah,
residents.
So I would say that this area is about a third of that additional cost of.
So roughly a third of the incremental aspirational number,
Yes,
roughly.
exactly.
So about 100,000?
Yeah.
About 100,000?
Yeah, that's
And then I think as a city, we should talk to those 4 houses where it's right in front of, to make sure that,
Because those corner houses tend to be a little closer in.
Yeah,
too.
they're
So I
closer
just,
in.
I just want to be respectful of
Right.
people who live there.
Because I'd be not happy if it was in front of my house. So I
Jen,
would
can I ask you
shrink
about from
it.
the service department's
Make it smaller.
perspective, what you think of this project in terms of maintenance and the new things you'll have to consider?
Well, there's always things to consider that, like you can't anticipate. Okay, so it's great to have no-mow grass, and we're set up now to cut the whole median. So anything you take away from that is going to be easier on the maintenance part of it. But when you're adding in all these plants, well, then there always is no care until there's all the care that's
Right,
necessary. And, and with the trees, you still have to prune trees. You train the young tree to grow properly so it doesn't turn into a raggy bush. So yes, there's stuff to do, but it's all stuff we're already doing.
Okay.
I mean, to add 50 more trees on Gates Mills, we're already doing 250 or 300 trees out there now. To add in 50 more tree cares, we trim generally once every 2 years or once every 3 years,
Okay.
depending on the species. So, you're not adding a ton, but where you're taking away this no-mow grass, yes, it's going to be easier to come in and cut the strips that around it. And that's the main thing, is the cutting, because cutting comes every week.
Right.
Where the grass grows every week, that's when we're cutting every week. So the no-mow grass will help.
Okay.
I think, I'm not an expert on no-mow grass, but there's people around here that aren't cutting their grass, and it's working out fine. So
So
I guess my other question then is is there anything in this plan that gives you pause, just in terms of like,
No.
okay.
No, when you deal with the problems as the problems show up.
Okay. So just to move this along, I would be in favor of doing what we talked about with the around Kersdale, or the aspirational around the center strip as kind of a basic plus bid, if you will. And then build on, if we love it, build on that in subsequent years. And, you know, the trees survive and it looks great, and just keep going.
Well, why don't we get authorization for Don and this team to prepare a bid with alternatives, and we can, you know, progress at least in the analysis of how to view this thing and understand
I
it.
think that's a great idea.
I think
Then
we
can
should talk to
work
the
with
residents
real
first.
numbers,
Right.
Instead of
Exactly.
back at the end. But these are, you know. I'm
Otherwise,
sure
we're
good
spinning
numbers.
around forever on it.
This is for next spring, right? I'm assuming,
So in.
or yet this year? I'm curious.
I think the earthwork, we'd like to bid it this year and have the earthwork done and maybe some of the plantings.
Some of the plantings this
Yeah,
year?
just depending on availability and what's better for the trees and that type of thing, but
But the trail is complete though, before you do this, right? Other than the mounding?
the trail would be complete other than the mounding. And even the mound materials would be in place.
You dump them
because
off,
we'll
right?
have
Right.
already stockpiled those. So then it's
Right.
really just kind of fine tuning those mound areas and doing the soil amending and then planting.
So if the trail goes in on budget, on time, no problems,
Yeah,
we could get some of this done this year.
we get a lot of it done this year.
A lot of, okay, great.
I'd like to talk to the residents that live in front of that
Just-
place.
Those houses are the same distance back as the entire street. They're all 75 feet off the right of way. That's about 95 feet from the pavement. The two Kersdale houses, their driveways actually exit on Kersdale. The south side. And on the north side, one of the houses exits on Gates Mills. 3 out of the 4 have a lot of screening in their front yard already.
Kathy, I have no problem with visiting and, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
talking to them. I
agree
have no
with Kim.
problem
Yeah.
at all with that. I think that can be done, like this bidding preparation, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So we can, I think, get it all done. They're gonna be fine tuning the plan regardless and doing things, but I think getting
Yeah, there are ways.
bid together, I think we can proceed with that.
I agree with Kathy. This is what we would do if somebody was doing some kind of major,
He's got trees.
you know, exterior
That
change
one's a
to
little
their
bit open,
home.
but it's still gonna be
And
over
we're not
here
saying
though, right?
Hold the whole thing. The only thing it would be reducing it.
yeah.
And if they're very supportive of it, that's, you know, but it's a fair conversation, I think, to have. And not really, it wouldn't really be
Oh, it's a
necessarily a
transfer.
major change, even if
I mean, if
they
you
were
think about
opposed to
that
it.
area, the White House there on that corner where you stop at Kersdale, that one is kind of close to the road and they don't have a lot of screening. The other one on the other corner, the one that always has the trucks and has the U-shaped driveway, that one's a little bit set back. The one on the other side, those two, the brown house with the tennis court in the back, that one's a little bit further back, but they don't have a lot of screening. That corner house has screening there, but I think it's important to talk to them because it's going to be right in front of them.
We will talk about it. Absolutely. Okay, well, can we have a motion, I guess, to authorize the preparation of the bid document?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
yes.
Ms. Zatra?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Godey?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Dr. Brown?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll continue to be in touch so far as the, you know, obviously work with Don, and I don't know which one of you does what we just said, go do, but please have our appreciation for this wonderful work that you've done and for your continuing efforts on this project. Really appreciate it. Very nice. I think everyone agrees.
Yeah.
This is a
great.
very
Thank you
nice
so much.
project that you've put together here. So thank you very much.
You can put this presentation on the website.
Absolutely.
And also thank you for the hard work.
Yeah.
Ah.
Very much.
If you could please get that as a package to Sheila so that we can put it on the website, appreciate it.
Thank
Give you a moment to
Sheila, would you
gather
forward
your
that to us
things.
too?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next, we're coming to Michelle, is that your computer?
It is my computer.
She saved the day.
Don't turn it off. We're gonna have, after our meeting last week, Michelle, on behalf of the Landerwood Consolidated Companies, asked if she could please return for a more full presentation of thoughts and comments regarding the proposed sign ordinance, and seemed a reasonable request. It's obviously an important issue for your company and your tenants, so we welcome your input this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council, for honoring the request that I made last week. And I really do appreciate you allowing us back here to have this conversation with you again further on signing. And I would say it's not just for Landerwood, but this could eventually impact all businesses within Pepper Pike that operate here.
Is it okay with you if we leave the lights on, or?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Mouse to work for you. There we go. Okay. So one of the things in working with the sign ordinance changes that we saw is that in subsection F, the elimination of freestanding signs. This provision arbitrarily sets limitations on the illumination of the signs. The signage should be allowed to be on for a period that aligns with the businesses that are here in the city of Pepper Pike, and should remain on for a period of time after that, so that those who are passing by during those smaller off hours would be able to see the businesses that are there. Landerwood's freestanding sign currently transitions to a 0% brightness from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. So it does not run 24/7. And when I say 0% brightness, that means you cannot see any of the signs that are running on it at that point in time. Subsection G1, the electronic changeable signage shall conform to the following standards and restrictions. I thought it would be good at this point just to give, not everybody that is sitting here today was part of or was here when we went through quite a bit of it, or a significant signage change at Landerwood. Previously, we did not have any lighted signs on the building. So we went through a sign package, a sign package approval process so that the tenants could have lighted signage. And we went through getting approval for a changeable copy monitor. I think there seemed to be a little bit of a surprise with the 6 colors that I mentioned last week. And I wanted everybody to be aware that when we went to ABR about this, they approved it, but they put limitations on us. They limited us to the 6 colors with, variations of one color equaling one color, and restricting us to no more than 2 logos on the signage.
I don't understand what that means. Variations of a color, like a light blue and a dark blue.
So as you faded, like if you had a light blue fading to a dark blue,
Yeah.
they would still say that that's considered as a blue and do one color.
Okay.
So your 6 colors are
We could
red,
choose
orange,
any,
green.
it could be any 6 colors. It's just that the slide could only hold 6 colors on it.
The slide can only hold 6 colors.
Yes, the slide could only hold 6 colors. They did not limit the colors that we could use, but we could only have 6 colors on the slide.
And inclusive, just so I understand, and inclusive of that is, it could be one color would count as light blue, dark blue. That's one
That is
color.
correct.
So it could have like 4 shades of blue. and like 3 shades of green. Okay, gotcha.
That would count as 2.
That would only count as 2. If you had different shades of blues and greens, that would count as 2.
It is.
Correct. Okay. Now I understand. Thank you.
Okay. This came about after ordinance 2017-30 was unanimously approved in on November 15, 2017. Prior to that, there was several readings of it, and it went through approvals through planning and zoning as well.
Just clarify that, Michelle, and so that, just make sure, so when you say per slide, you mean per screen view, right?
Per screen view. I call them slides because it's a,
Right, I get it. So then, when you say colors 6, so it could have a total of 6 colors on a slide, not 12, it'd be 6.
correct.
And any colors you want, as long as there's 6, could be purple, could be fuchsia, could be,
Correct.
okay, and any combination of those colors
Any
could be,
combination of those colors.
and could be dark, light, could be anything.
Yes.
So,
But really, you could, so just so I'm understanding, you could have dark blue, cobalt blue, light blue, and then like 4 shades of green, but you, all on the same slide, but that still counts as 2, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but let's get in, we'll get through this, and I do have
Yeah.
some signs that I have that have been up there, in which I can actually show you how we've utilized the colors or not utilized the colors on the signage.
Okay, and just to clarify what you said before,
Mhm.
you're saying that this was approved, what was approved May 17th?
Our digital changeable copy monitor was approved
Oh, okay,
on May
that's what you're
17,
saying.
2018.
Okay. That's not when this ordinance was in place.
The ordinance was approved to allow digital copy signs for retail centers over 35,000 square feet on November 15, 2017. Next.
Thank you.
So in the ordinance, there was a proposal for new signs or signage to go strictly to a black background and one color. And each of you heard from Angela last week from Play Matters. And you heard her say, so up here is her Play Matters sign, and that's the signage that was up advertising their solar eclipse glasses. You also heard them say how much this advertisement helped benefit them as they sold out of those glasses. She took the time to give me this ad with a black background. And as you can see, it is not as effective as the white background. In fact, her blue blends right into it, and it's very difficult to see.
Could you have a outline around the blue to make it more legible?
But it then affects her, at that point, it affects her logo and the colors that they have stated with their logo.
It does,
They don't have that.
look more like an eclipse, by the way, but that's, I'm just saying.
Good marketing.
Nobody thought of that, but.
The reason I bring that up is that it doesn't change their logo color. It adds an outline on it, but it would make it legible against the black background.
It would make it, depending on it, but I would argue the point that putting an outline around their blue is not what is seen on their normal logos. That goes on, and you offset those logos. And that is their preference, and that is the one thing she stated, that adding an outline around that, now changes what their logo looks like on a regular basis.
So their logo is that orange play and the word matters?
It is a red play. It might show up a little
Red.
differently, but it is red in that specific color of blue.
And the blue is the same on both backgrounds because
The
it
blue
goes
is-
black on the white.
The blue is the same on both backgrounds.
Okay.
And then we have variations of blue in the glasses, but that's one color.
Yeah, so there's some variations of blues, and then there's probably some reds in there. But if we go through that, you have red, you have blue, you have the white, you have some purple, and maybe some green. So you have 5 colors. And this is probably, with the
And
exception.
black.
And black. So Landward's existing changeable copy sign, just so that you have a little bit of a better understanding of where it is and where it's been since it was actually installed in 2019. So this became operational. It took several months afterwards to get the structure in place and then to add the monitor to it. But our slides change every 30 seconds. The federal standard or the minimum amount the federal standard says, I believe, is 8 seconds. Is that not correct? So we leave those signs sitting on there for way longer than what the federal standard is, which we have no issues with. We've done that from day one. And I believe that might have been part of the original sign ordinance. None of our slides, we don't put any videos up. We don't fade them in or out. We don't do any animation. We don't do any scrolling letters. We don't flash. We don't do any blinking. That was one of the things that planning and zoning and council and ABR had talked about with us as we went through this approval process. Our foot candles meet the federal and Pepper Pike existing codes that are set in place. Again, I'll remind you that we go to a 0% brightness between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. where the signage is not on. Our brightness does adjust between daytime and nighttime. And our brightness levels are from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. We're at a 40% brightness. That brightness increases from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. to 50%. From 5 p.m. to 12 a.m., we go back down to 25% brightness. And again, from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., 0%.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
So that's
25% brightness. What is that?
So the brightness is how bright that signage shows during the time of the day. Obviously, you don't want that sign to be as bright at nighttime as it is in the day for you to see it. The sunlight takes away from the brightness from what you see, so you increase it during the day. And obviously at nighttime, you're going to see it better than what you do in the daytime, so you reduce that down.
Can you give those times again that you just went through?
So 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., we're at 40% brightness.
Mm-hmm.
7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., we're at 50% brightness.
50?
50. 5 p.m. to 12 a.m., we're at 25% brightness. And from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., we're at 0% brightness.
So it's 50% of what?
It's 50% of the brightness that the sign will allow it to go at 100%. So we can go all the way up to 100%.
And because
where all the light can be,
and that can translate into foot candles, I'm assuming, or some actual measure of lumens or something like that.
I would have to leave that to Jonathan to answer that question. I'm not.
The answer is yes. So
Okay. And there's a provision in the code about that. I think it's 3 foot candles measured at a distance.
Depending on this word, yes.
This
depending on the
chart
circle,
that's in
yes,
there?
That chart, and that is what the foot candles we meet federal and Pepper Pike's codes.
And so one of the big issues I had was at night. If you have a sign that is fully white and you're coming around the corner, it's blinding on you. It's just so bright that it ruins your vision until you get away from it. So this is what you're doing currently, right? And have been doing.
Correct.
So even at 25% at night, if you have a sign that has a full white background, I found, and other residents have told me that is so bright that it ruins your night vision as you're going around there. But you're doing that, and that's at 25% because you're doing this currently, apparently. Okay.
Our entire message changes at one time. There's, as I was watching it the other day, I think the code says that it needs to change within 3 seconds. We change in less than 3 seconds. And again, we only use 6 colors per the approvals that were given to us. Subsection G8, this talks about when a new changeable copy sign could be put in, and 75 feet within a traffic curb or intersection is inconsistent with conditions of signage for most retail centers. As Landerwood exists today, if this sign needs to be replaced, the digital copy sign would need to be placed in our driveway. and it would not be visible for the public to see. Landerwood's, subsection I, Landerwood's existing sign is currently in compliance with all regulations per the approvals that we received, including all colors. The ability for us to be able to replace any working part, all electronic components, should be added to this section. With subsection N, I would just have to say that the addition of this section does not facilitate the needs of multi-tenant businesses. Subsection D, it reduces the square footage to some additional square footage that is actually in other sections of the code. 24 square feet is too small for a multi-tenant retail center or even an office center. The proposed ordinance removes our current right to install 2 freestanding signs of 40 square feet for a retail building of our size. As you heard me talk about at last week's meeting, when we went to this changeable copy size, we reduced what we had significantly. It's a huge amount. I mean, if you recall, if you've been here in Pepper Pike for a long time, we had this huge sign that was a changeable copy that had to be done by hand, but it was probably double the size of what we currently have. Existing signage in U3 and U4 districts near the circle will not meet the new criteria and could have detrimental effects on the value of a building bringing new businesses to Pepper Pike.
Tell me more about that, why that's the case?
Why is that the case?
Yeah.
Because currently, if you will look at the next slide, only 3 of the existing buildings that I show up here in U3 and U4 are within the 24 square feet.
That's the current regulation, though, is 24 square feet for them.
That is your proposed regulation.
No, for existing.
So anything new that goes in, or if anything is destroyed more than 50%, your new regulation changes it from 32 to 24.
But that's for retail,
Yes,
yeah. But for U3 and U4,
it is 24.
is 24
It
currently.
is 24, and signs in U3 currently.
So those
do not
were,
meet that.
but I guess my point is,
Yeah.
those were approved under a 24 square foot rubric.
I don't know that.
Yeah. Well,
I can't answer.
I looked
that,
at it.
but
It's always been that way. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently, because I went out and measured all these signs too. So I did just what you did. And the ABR and the architectural review apparently approved some overage based on what, but that was the existing standard already, 24 for them, not for you,
Right.
but for them, it was already 24.
Right.
So that's not a change for them.
It's not, it may not be a change for the U3s, but I'm using this as an example, as I'll show you in some of these signs, how this affects both your single tenant buildings and your multi-tenant buildings,
But just to be clear, they're already living under a 24 square foot restriction.
according to the current regulations.
Right.
Except
And then-
for the U4.
Yeah.
It is not a change. There's no change in that. That is the current ordinance.
That is correct.
I know.
So the waterway is 36, almost 37 square feet. You have Santos Salon in the Century 21 building is almost 30 square feet. And these measurements are only for the signage. It does not measure any of the portion of the sign, its base or tops.
So this was ABR allowing them to build a bigger sign because they made their, for whatever reason, under a 24 square
So
foot.
this one,
There's no change to this regulation.
under the current regulation, they are in compliance because it's 32 square feet. If the change is allowed, this sign would no longer be in compliance if, except for grandfathering. And if something would happen to this sign, then they would not be able to replace it as it stands today.
This isn't U2 though.
What's that?
This is not U2.
This is U4.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, U4. U4 is currently 32 square feet. And the proposed change is 24 square feet. So if anything happened to this sign, they would not be able to replace it as it stands today. This is Landerwood sign. It is 36. And then there are a few of the U3s that are in here. And as you can see, you know, none of the U3s meet the current. So they would end up with the same issues. These are multi-tenant buildings that, if something happened to their signage, they would have to come back in a smaller form based on the way the code is. Safety concerns. I would ask, you know, what safety concerns does council maintain? I do know that Mr. Lemay, you just pointed out to us that you have some concerns with how bright the white background is. Was a study done to validate these concerns by council before going forward with trying to make some of these changes? And my next question is, has there been any accidents attributed to the existing digital copy signs in Pepper Pike? It is my understanding that, according to police records, that there have been no accidents or incidents regarding the digital copy signs.
Yeah, I just think, just to comment on that, I just think it's unlikely that if someone's in an accident, the first thing they will say is, well, I was looking at the sign. And so it's unlikely there'll ever be a study that would,
Same thing
where
with
drivers who caused an accident will admit they were not paying any attention.
Same thing with your
So-
phone, same things with reading a paper.
Yeah, well, they would say, you know, a squirrel ran in front, you know, so I just don't, that data is never going to be available. So that's not a reason not to do this.
The same, just to be fair, on the same hand, our police do investigate accidents
For sure.
and they do accident reconstruction, they do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And
But there are accidents.
we do not reflect that an accident has, she's right, I have to see that.
It would be rare for a driver to
We've
say,
not attributed
it's me, I
an
wasn't
accident
looking.
to the presence of that sign.
But I
Carl,
think,
what did you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, accidents don't happen in that area. Usually they're at Chagrin and Lander with people coming out of the circle, which is a little bit wide, trying to shoot down Chagrin, hitting somebody on the outside coming up from Lander is usually where
I think,
accidents on that circle happen.
I think Mr. Smergen, though, it spoke at length in our planning and zoning meeting about that there are a lot of studies about distractions with brightness and with movement and things like that. He spoke quite at length about that there are studies out there that it's well established, that there are distractions.
So I can have Jonathan speak on that.
Well, I don't know, okay.
So-
Good evening.
Jonathan, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Jonathan Kamen. I'm outside counsel for Glimcher Group. I've represented the Glimchers for, probably 15 years. In addition to that, I do a tremendous amount of work in the area of signage on a national basis. I write sign ordinances. I represent Lamar Advertising Company, and deal with signage on a national basis in terms of in particular, digital signs. I wasn't at the planning, obviously, to hear Mr. Spurgeon talk, though I do have the notes from Mr. Spurgeon when he spoke in 2017 on this sign and in support of this sign. What I would tell you is there are a number of studies out there that show different things. There's only one study that was actually done by the Federal Highway Administration. I brought 10 copies of it for you to have. And what that study actually shows, look, there's, as I said, multiple studies funded by different interest groups. The outdoor industry has funded some, Scenic America has funded some, other groups have funded some. There's one study that's been done by the federal government itself. And to answer Mr. LeMay's question of how do you actually prove the question of whether or not this is a distraction or it isn't, what they actually did in that study, which I've just provided to you, is that they went ahead and put eye monitors in a number of vehicles and had different people drive through those vehicles in multiple states and determine what was the level of distraction versus digital and not digital signage. as you can see in the, 70-plus page report that I provided to you, what the federal government said, so that's, again, not an interest group doing it, is that there is no statistical difference or measurable effect on the distractions associated with a digital sign versus a non-digital sign. They also promulgated a number of regulations, of which Pepper Pike's ordinances comply, regarding brightness, and your question on how to measure it. White is the brightest color, right? And in fact, when you're measuring the nits or foot candles or whatever it is, the requirement under the law is that you go to white and then measure it that way, because that is the most accurate way to go ahead and understand the intensity of the brightness that you have. In terms of the brightness levels that Michelle was talking about, we're in Ohio, same as in Pennsylvania. You have various levels of ambient light that go ahead and affect the brightness. So sometimes there is a day where it can seem brighter than it is. Sometimes there are days when it seems darker. It all is really based on the ambient light that's around it. And that's why the measurements are such that the computer and the vendor in this case actually sets it for what it needs to be, so that it's consistent throughout, regardless of the ambient that may come in and create other issues with it. I do have some additional comments. I'll let Michelle get through the rest of the slides. But I did see the new ordinance that came out today. Michelle called me about 4:00, and it does appear that there's a express provision in there that would take away our grandfathering. Not sure how that's particularly allowed. I made a call to a friend of mine in Cincinnati on the way out and asked him about it.
If you read it that way, that wasn't the intent.
Well, I read it and that's what it says.
Okay.
So if that's not the intent, there certainly needs to be some changes to it.
Yeah.
But very clearly, that's what it says. And I think that's a whole other set of issues, because our approvals were vested. We went ahead and changed our sign and relied on those approvals. We had certificates of occupancy. We have everything that we need to be considered. At this point, we're conforming, but the change of as I saw in the ordinance today, which would change its operation entirely. I was very surprised to see that, as somebody who practices in this area now.
Yeah. So just from a visibility standpoint, and do the research too. I'm nowhere near the expert you are, I suspect, but the manual and uniform traffic control devices in section 2L.01 says contrast orientation of changeable message signs should always be positive, that is, with luminous characters on a dark or less luminous background. And that it indicated that's about a 25% faster or it's shorter the other way around. In other words, driver comprehension is much quicker if it's dark background and luminous characters. Are you familiar with that regulation?
Well, so I think the luminous is a vague term, right? So we measure in nits and foot candles in terms of what it is.
I'm just talking about in terms of the contrast. Luminous characters on a dark background for driver comprehensibility was substantially higher than the other way around.
Well, I think it depends on the color choices, and it depends on also the amount. When we go ahead and put forward a proposed sign, the less on the sign, the better it is, right? So you want to have a contrast, but you also want to have the message very clear on that. So there are a number of factors that go into driver comprehension, but basically the simpler the better would be the best way.
Yeah, but they're also recommending luminous characters on a dark background is much better for driver comprehension. I mean, that's just in the reg. Okay. Go ahead, Michelle.
All right, so next, I have some slides that have actually been up on the signage. And as you'd heard me spoke last week, these slides that will come up are not only slides for our tenants, but they're community slides for things that go on around the community for our tenant or for residents as well. So this is Canoes. This is, and as you look at this Jenna Page Designs is actually their logo. it would be extremely difficult to get them, and I've tried with our tenants sometimes, to get them to update or give us better logos. And this is one of those that, with Jenna Page Designs, it's very difficult to do. This is a standard slide, the Celebrate the Grad. That comes standard with our sign package. And this is one that is used back in May. This is
So
one of
you
our,
have some software that's a package and
we have a package software that has a lot of these color slides where you see the leaves or the flowers or the balloons that come standard with the package when we purchase the sign based on our approvals.
I just want to know.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
Which of those is easier for you to read?
This one is the way it's designed.
And what is that, dark background and light color?
It is,
letters?
but I'll get some other ones for you as well.
Okay.
You have this one here on a white background. This one pulls together everything that is within this logo for Farmers Insurance. In Farmers Insurance, some of these national tenants, they actually are required to have their signage done a certain way. So Farmers requires the red, white, and blue in everything that they do. This is their blue that is on here. So if you took that blue and put it on a black background, you would not see it very well at all. It would look absolutely terrible on this. Block Brothers at home. This pink color is their standard colors that you will see on all of their bags that come out. This is part of their marketing. This is their colors. This would not look well on a black background. These are the town hall meetings as they are sent to me from Pepper Pike Civic League.
Let me just ask you a question. I understand that your comment that it wouldn't look good on a black background. But there are other light backgrounds other than white that you'd still see, and I'm sorry if I'm not seeing that. I don't know if that's orange or red. Is that red?
It's actually a very light pink.
That's pink. Okay.
Pink.
The Block Brothers, that's pink?
That is a pink color.
Okay.
Yes.
But there's color, my point, I guess, is there are colors other than, maybe not dark, but there are other colors than a brighter white that I think that would be apparent on it, wouldn't it?
It might be apparent on it, but they like the white and their
They
pink
like
letters on the white.
Okay.
That's not
and that
quite
is-
the point. The point, and I do think it actually would work on a dark background, but I understand they like the white, but that's not the question, right?
Can I make an observation? I appreciate that these are the kinds of ads that would look good in print. But all advertising all graphics have to be adjusted for their use. And this is something that needs to be seen quickly by somebody who might be driving by. So there are other choices than just color choices. There's font size, there's how much copy you cram into a small space. So I think to talk about these just as simply color issues, I think is a little bit simplified.
I wouldn't disagree with that. So I have to work with these tenants to make sure that we get the font size correctly. If you look at the Block Brothers ad when it posts, it can be a little difficult to see because of how fine of a font it is. I have some tenants or some community members who would like some up and they want to put a ton of stuff on. And you have to explain to them that it will not be very visible and they can't grab it or the driver can't grasp it right away. That is also part of one of the reasons why we don't change that sign every 8 seconds.
But understand, it's not somebody who's looking at a page, it's somebody who's driving by it. And I think that's a huge consideration here.
And driving by on a curve with ambiguous laneage and some drivers who aren't familiar with how to drive traffic circles. So it's not a straight road where you're going by and looking, it's looking all around you. And then for every moment your eyeballs are on that sign, trying to figure out what it says, you're not on the road.
So the ordinance as proposed would prohibit signage within, I believe it was 350 feet of a residential within 75 feet of an intersection.
Or circle.
Or circle.
Well, and this is a perfect example of which one is more legible. It's another demonstration of dark background works better.
Right. And a lot of times I will ask, as like with the kindergarten one that's up here, I'll ask them to try to revise it. And I said, you know, if they can't or they don't want to, I'm like, drive by and take a look at it. It's going to be difficult to read and see.
But I think the dark green, it's like other points, it's not black, but it's dark enough that it makes the white copy show better than the all white background. And again, like some of these, they maybe do not have to be black, but it could be a darkened color that would help with visibility. I think that there's some discussion and that could happen to maybe move more that direction.
And I would say that yes, the darker it is, easier to see the white on the darker background. But however, when I stopped up today to test, and check everything out, I did ask if there were any additional changes to the ordinance or anything that has come in. And I was presented with some more changes. And those changes actually take out the grandfathering and will require anybody who currently has a changeable copy sign to go to a black background and only use amber lettering. And that goes completely against what was originally talked about last week, where everybody was under the assumption that we would be grandfathered in with what we had. At this point, you know, I think Jonathan may have a few more comments to make, but I would ask that council seriously consider not taking a vote on the ordinance that was proposed that we were working off last week, and I based this presentation off of, and open up more dialogue on what would be appropriate and work with.
And let me jump in and just do that. And the intent of this is, so we have 3 changeable copy signs. And part of the concern is just the proliferation of these signs, and they're not attractive. Many communities ban them altogether. You know, many communities just don't allow them permissible. The other 2 signs would comply. The school and library is the only other 2 signs, which are orange on black or basically amber on black. And what I told the mayor earlier is that I really want, in my view, there's only certain signs you're putting up that create a safety issue. Like, I don't think that one on the left, just because it's very clear and very easy to read. But there are certain signs when I've gone around there, which I found almost illegible. And my eyes it took me away from the road longer than it should. I'm really worried. I'm not doing this. I want to support your businesses. It's a vital part of Pepper Pike. But I'm very concerned that the safety issue about this. So to your point that you just said, I would wholly agree. And I would want, after we have the discussion on the ordinance tonight, to take all of your points, and maybe the mayor and I and you two sit together and just walk through these in more detail. Because I think the way you're reading it on the grandfather is not what the intent was, but we can get into that.
We would be open for discussion on that.
Good. Good. We'd like to set that up, and we can do it sitting here right this second, or we can, but we'll get together and, have that conversation when you have your calendar and we have ours, and we can figure out a good time, and sooner than later.
Yes.
We should do it. Okay?
And I would honestly say, as I said last week, I mean, at any point in time, if there is an issue, it would be good to have a phone call. So we're not sitting here in this position right now, talking over ordinance. We're working together as a team.
Okay. What else do you have? Jonathan, you had some more comments you want?
Well, no, I mean, the grandfathering that I saw this afternoon was the biggest comment. I can talk knits, book handles, backgrounds, images, all
And I'm
day
sure
long,
it's
but-
stimulating conversation.
Stimulating. Put 3 kids through school. But I would say that's, by the way, that's elementary, middle, secondary. But
How about graduate school? No?
but they're not there yet. But I would say that, having a discussion about this, I think we can work something out that makes sense for everybody.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll do that. Council, you have any more questions of these folks? Then thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for allowing.
Appreciate your time and your comments. Thank you.
Appreciate your
saving the day.
computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Double duty.
I'm glad I came out and checked it out ahead of
I'll
time.
give you official brownie points for
It's
that.
right.
It's our tech support auxiliary.
I was gonna try and reach some
Well, we got the
2-year-old.
bill.
Okay, Mayor. Mark, can I see that?
Let me grab my agenda. Is that where we are?
Yep.
That's where we are.
That's where we're
Okay. We are moving on and Michelle, as you see, we have you're still on this ordinance is this ordinance on the agenda later? Yes. So you're welcome to stay and listen in yet, chase away. We're moving on to our next agenda item, which is selection of the Charter Review Commission. We're gonna try to have a vote on that tonight. And before we get to that, and Sheila's passing out some ballot information tonight, right now. Before we get to that, Mr. Gentili had brought up an issue that he'd like to discuss and address.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss the possibility of a tie at the bottom. In other words, the ninth slot or the person who gets 1 point. And in the case of a possible tie between, let's say, 9 and 10, we would have we'd have to break that tie in order to get the ninth person established.
So there's 2 number 9s, in other words.
There's 2 number 9s.
Yeah.
There's 2 number 9s. Now, my proposal to break that tie has 3 parts to it. The first one would be to figure out how many people voted for each person. Let's say that they had 10 points. How many people voted and gave 10 points to one and to two? If the first person had 5 people voting for them and the second person had 3 or 4, the person with 5 votes would get it because that's more of a consensus, establishing more of a consensus, even though the points were the same. That's number one. If after that there's still a tie, let's say it's 4 and 4, then we would vote just between those 2 people. Again, we'd have another vote. And if
that
that's
would
still,
just be a one-on-one.
yeah. And if that still yielded a tie, then we just have to go to the coin flip because there really is no other way.
And I love coin flips.
Yeah, you won the last one. No, you
I always
lost.
lose a coin flip.
You lost.
But it all turned out well, right?
So I can't think of any fairer way of breaking that tie. Hopefully, we won't have that tie and we won't have to address that issue. But if we do, I think we should have a procedure that we agree on that will work to break that tie.
I have a suggestion to yours, because since you brought it up earlier this morning to me individually, I've been thinking about it. And I think you're right. It's something that has to be addressed. And I think we might be better off dropping your first point of counting, how many ballots the person appeared on. Simply because, there may have been 2 people who voted for them and got 4 points, or 4 people who voted 1 point and they got 4 points. There may be more people, I understand, but the 2-point people may have thought that much more value to the person being on this commission. Not that they're not valuable people, everyone's valuable, but so far as they're being on the commission, I think maybe we go right to your second.
To the vote?
To the vote. And that way, if anyone now seeing which 2 candidates are being considered, a more affirmative demonstrating an intentional act to select this person or that person is present. And to me, it seems more in line with the way the other people were selected and less different than, well, everyone else totaled up numbers of votes, and now all of a sudden, we're going to just do it this way instead for that person. I don't like that. I'm uncomfortable with that.
I could live with that.
And if they tie again,
Then the coin.
state of Ohio permits a coin flip to break an election, apparently. I've been told. And we can move to that.
Okay, so how this is gonna work for,
I'm sorry, I have to go with it. I remember when you won mayor, the headline said, "No coin flip needed."
Did it
same
right.
two candidates. So just so everyone understands how this is gonna work, we're all gonna fill out our ballots, giving 9 points to our first choice on down to 1 point to our ninth highest choice. That doesn't mean anything because it's been extremely difficult to sort these folks out. We're gonna all pass our ballots to Sheila. She's going to make 2 copies of the ballots. Joe and I are going to independently put the votes into a tally sheet and make sure that we agree on the numbers, because it's easy to make a mistake when you're putting numbers into a spreadsheet that big. And then once we agree on that, then Sheila will read, well, at the same time as we're doing the numbers, Sheila's going to read the ballots and say the name of the person in alphabetical order and how many points they got and from what elector. So in other words, she's going to say Tony Gentili, Tom Smith.
I thought you just doing the top 10.
Top 9?
The top
Top
9,
nine.
just the top
Yeah.
9.
Okay.
Yeah, but let's say that,
I thought, do we want to do grand total? And-
no.
Okay.
You're going to be reading these at the same time Joe and I are doing the math. That's why we need the copies. So let's say that we had somebody named Jones, and Jones was the first alphabetically. She would read Jones and how many points, and then down to the next person alphabetically who got points and say that number.
So read everyone's ballot.
Yeah, you're going to read everybody's ballot, but
Start with
alphabetically.
Scott, or alphabetically.
Right.
Okay.
I thought that they were just being read alphabetically without the points.
No, with
No,
the
we
points.
have to do the
With
points.
the points.
We have to say the points.
Do we have, can we just do
For-
the top
for the public.
total, grand
Yeah.
total? Or do we have?
So you need to know,
We have to say
you
them
have to
out
say
loud.
what council members voted for what person, for how
Okay,
many
so
votes.
I'll take.
And that's why you're doing
Okay.
that, because if you had to do both at the same time, I don't even know how you could
Okay.
possibly
All right.
do all 3 actions at the same time.
All right.
So just to be, so you'll read this, you'll go down this list.
Okay,
The,
I'll say
the,
Jim
fir- the,
LeMay
fir- the
said-
first name in which you
Okay.
find there's a number attached to it,
Gotcha.
you will read that name and the number attached to it. Then you'll skip down to the next name
Yes.
that has a number, rather
And
than
then I'll
reading
do
31
Kathy's.
names.
Right.
Right.
And then I'll do
Yeah,
Tony.
yeah.
Yep, got it.
Okay.
And you want those done alphabetically by council person, or does
No.
that?
That doesn't
That
matter.
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Good.
Put your name on your sheets, guys.
All right.
It's on the bottom.
And I just want to point out
It's already
that,
on here.
that the procedure that's being agreed to tonight in terms of the tallying is not the same thing that was in the ordinance, but because there's unanimous agreement on council and it's a procedural issue, I think that the actual ordinance where you're supposed to put you used to be going to rank the highest candidate with a 1. Now you're ranking the highest candidate with the highest
We
number.
passed another ordinance that changed it.
The 2024-13 is the one that's in place.
We amended that. though.
We amended that with 2024.
Now, 2024-04 was the first one.
We amended it twice. We amended it with 2024.
No.
You wrote this one.
You've put the number here.
No cheat.
Just give me a second. 2024-24, which is the ordinance you wrote, and it just repealed the voting section and replaced it. 2024-24.
Hey, you're right. It's hard to find this because we sort them by month. Apologize for that.
That's okay.
But it was a nice explanation.
Can we start putting our stuff
Yeah,
down?
we could start.
Okay. You done too? Thank you. Sure.
Good practice for next week, filling out.
I wish it was anything.
We could have had little circles for you to fill in.
Practice my Scantron skills.
Number 2 pencil sharpened, are they?
Oh my gosh.
Do you need any, do you need any number 2
I know.
pencils?
That's fine.
We have lots that are glitter pencils for the children. I can give you a few glitter
Keep
pencils.
things spicy. I wonder if they, that's probably not allowed. You know, there's
Yeah.
only the, like, you know, orange, whatever.
You're going to do great.
Councilman Golick is taking the bar exam next week. Councilwoman. However that pronoun works.
While we're waiting, I'd just like to thank everybody who took the time to apply. I was really
Absolutely.
pleased with the applicant pool and how fortunate we were to have all 30 community members want to serve us.
It was actually really a challenge. I know when
This was not easy.
when we started, we weren't sure if we would have 9 applicants, truly. And we were fortunate. We were fortunate to be in a community where so many people care.
It was really cool to see the diverse skill sets and like just, you know, get a little window. Into
And it was a challenge.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean, it was quite a challenge. It really was. And now we have everyone's names who were interested in in doing something.
Tony, we're gonna start with yours.
All right.
Do I have to read full names or last name, okay, Steve?
Last name's fine.
Okay.
I mean, if everybody, does the audience all know who the candidates are?
There's 2 with the same last name, so for that one, you
Oh,
might want to.
If there's doubles, I'll include a first name. How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay, this is Tony Gentili's ballot. 8 for Scott Bilski. 9 for Cindy Icoff. 7 for Dagmar Fellows, and I'm reading first names anyway. 1 for Rob Gilmore. 6 for Tamra Hernick. 3 for Stephanie Jarrett. 4 for Matthew Vazana. 2 for Scott Weltman. 5 for Robert Zatrok. This is Jackie Godick. 8 for Vera Bartasavage. 9 for Scott Bilski. 5 for Matt Dreyfus, 1 for Gary Hoffman, 2 for Stephanie Jarrett, 3 for Howard Katz, 7 for Robert Resnick, 6 for Jeremy Rizepka, 4 for Matthew Vazana. Kathy Wong, 3 for Scott Bilski, 9 for Matt Dreyfus, 8 for Dagmar Fellows, 6 for Gary Hoffman, 5 for Tamara Hernick, 4 for Stephanie Jarrett, 1 for Robert Resnick, 7 for Jeremy Rizepka, 2 for Matthew Vazana, Jim LeMay, 9 for Howard Bochnick, 6 for Cindy Eichhoff, 4 for Dagmar Fellows, 5 for Rob Gilmore, 2 for Gary Hoffman, 7 for Stephanie Jarrett, 8 for Robert Resnick, 1 for Jeremy Rizepka, Emmy Zatruk, 9 for Cindy Eichhoff, 6 for Dagmar Fellows, 7 for Tamara Hernick, excuse me, 8 for Stephanie Jarrett, 2 for John McMurray, 4 for Manny Naft, 1 for Jeremy Rizepka, 3 for Douglas Solomon, 5 for Matthew Vazana. Melanie Waltman, 9 for Cindy Eichhoff, 8 for Dagmar Fellows, 4 for Rob Gilmore, 6 for Tamara Hernick, 7 for Stephanie Jarrett, 3 for Manny Naft, 2 for Robert Resnick, 1 for Douglas Solomon, 5 for Matthew Vazana. Scott Newell, 3 for Howard Bochnick, 5 for Cindy Eichhoff, 6 for Dagmar Fellows, 8 for Gary Hoffman, 7 for Stephanie Jarrett, 1 for John McMurray, 4 for Robert Resnick, 2 for Jeremy Rizepka, 9 for Matthew Vazana. Rick Bain, 4 for Vera Bardasavage, 8 for Scott Bilski, 6 for Howard Bochnick, 2 for Dagmar Fellows, 8 for Rob Gilmore, 9 for Gary Hoffman, 6 for Stephanie Jarrett, 3 for Howard Katz, 5 for Robert Resnick, 4 for Jeremy Rizepka, 1 for Douglas Solomon, 7 for Matthew Vazana. Does that complete it? Did anyone get missed?
Did anyone get missed? The votes have been read and are being tabulated. Listen to the final Jeopardy music in your head.
I know, I already have.
This is like that moment on C-SPAN when the House is voted and we're all milling around waiting for the clerk to tabulate.
Nice addition, Scott.
I like it. I like it. I really like it. Look at sound.
With the last one.
Of course.
The C-SPAN plays classical music while the votes
What
are
are
being
errors?
tabulated.
Is that right?
Sophisticated, educated voter.
This is part of that sober, serious experience we aspire to, Jim.
Probably a copyright issue with this going on over
Yeah.
there.
Perhaps.
Sibling.
We're in deep waters now.
We go to
Little brothers.
a national park every year.
Different one.
Before we're too old to do this.
Yeah, I love that.
So my sister, my two brothers, and various little children.
Sort of a balance between stressful and calming music.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Really well done.
Shared
They've changed so much over the years.
Have they changed the
Yeah.
music?
Get it in when the glasses off.
There was one that had a timpani.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like a little?
Yeah.
My sister lives up there.
That's funny.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so.
They've changed.
Okay.
4.5 days, 5 days, we do day. Various
They-
We're big Jeopardy fans in our house.
Like-
So.
Yeah, yeah.
What a fun
Yeah, we had-
tradition. Every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, every year. For about
Are you kids going?
none of mine are going. They're all, have their own lives and, yeah, so. It's funny, they're that age where they get weddings and.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Which version is this?
Yeah.
Is that the current version?
That's an old one. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
They all sound the same to me, so it just shows you I haven't noticed.
They're down the list from seeing friends get married and bachelor parties and whatnot.
Have you ever, you guys ever?
I know, I don't want to walk
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, that
Maybe
was,
we can have
So my son's named Bryce.
a 3-minute recess.
Related.
Or I'll walk out.
this is
What do we
one.
have next?
There, like the whole time. Just like, look, let's have it outside.
Well, they have to check it. That's why there was a possibility for Sheila
Yeah.
to at the
All
same
kinds
time
of very
reading
trying.
that and showing that.
We went there, some years we do this in summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
have,
would imagine Paul.
yeah.
They used to have. No, I think you have to read what we gave people. But the reason.
December somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it was monthly.
Freakish.
They don't do that.
Oh, so it wasn't, it's
One of-
not,
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, one of those freakish.
They
They
are.
were
They're
like,
back
you're
to
up.
basics. They should go to
Why?
But,
That's great.
Yeah, it's great.
they're having
Where, so where?
streamlining housing development. over-
All right.
Thank you. And she hands it to you.
My brother-
I couldn't really.
Like,
Private equity. Private equity.
Always wants to do it.
It is what it is.
That's great.
So last
You
week.
guys are going.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have them up like this.
Oh, yeah. They love that.
Yeah, my brother invented this.
So
housing development.
are they still considered
Great
a
idea.
Columbus firm?
We got,
You don't need.
No, I think they're national.
We had a considered national.
Right.
have to.
It's great. Bricker was the dominant.
I should have brought the
They're
drops.
hard to get,
I didn't even
hard to
know Bricker
get.
was that big.
Oh, I
So
bet.
he said, let's all go. He just came up with this idea. How much they, I pulled up. Don't
I
face
know.
the windows. We rang up on wires and.
Oh, product.
It was
Uh,
like-
chocolate.
Do you
So-
like
I hiked. I'm very general.
Okay.
If you've never heard of that.
No, but I know that there are like local hiking groups.
Founded in 1990, right after the Spanish.
Right.
Been around for 100 years.
So just for, so you guys just go all around this area?
Yeah, every day.
I know, that's why I
Like
said
every day.
my
You
show.
show.
Just like literally every
So,
day.
yeah, Kentucky.
I tell people about this.
West of Dallas.
Yeah.
She
It's
was
like 2 hours to the airport.
relatively recently, like she
You're south of, yeah, you're kind of past the pan.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is a website.
It's angle or it's kind of starting. to
Pop it up.
towards,
Paper, at least that's right, but to.
And then
Nowhere.
there's a place, there's.
And it's pretty dry. They finally had a break in the action.
Starting at 7 a.m. is the first one. And then they have moderate hikes, which are
Oh,
the,
and so they like rate them and tell you what you're getting
if you want to go
into.
really fast, energetic, it's
I
called.
love it.
And 7 a.m. So pre-work hikes. And then there's, it goes all day. And then there's, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And all around, that's in Rocky River, on the
Yeah.
west side, south side. And
I'll have to put future copies.
there's
Sign me up for that.
baseball hike,
Oh my
so
gosh.
downtown.
Not too bad.
Chapin Forest, which is out
That's-
east,
yeah,
which is
that's
beautiful.
pretty.
Mercer Grim's a common place for me. And so then they start again in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So there's leisure, so that's mostly older and
I
you're,
love that.
yeah. And this is every day, there's 15 hikes. up to 7 p.m. It's just all volunteer around.
So like when you, so do you go up and you go on usually?
At least
to
once a
Barry?
week.
And how like,
Right.
typically,
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah, between 5 and 20.
that's great.
Yeah,
And so like the whoever, like there's one person who's like conservative.
yeah, it was a hike leader. So they sign up as know the trails.
Yeah.
And some of them know the history. And that's an old bridge that was couple
I love that. So what do you need
And you-
here? Do you just show
No,
like some hiking shoes,
hiking boots, I'm taking
water?
a water bottle.
That's it, you're good.
So,
Right, you should.
so I get up in the
Yeah.
morning, I'm like, oh, God, I'm in this.
Right. Oh, I love that. Alright, well, this is what I'm gonna do with all my new fun free
There you
time
go.
after this.
You should.
That's
Can you meet them
awesome.
up?
If I own
I mean,
apartment building, I can take a section.
it's all walks of life. Engineers to sales reps to factory workers.
See, excuse me, well.
What time of day do you usually go?
City.
Well, I usually go at 9 o'clock since I'm
Yeah.
retired, but I mean,
That's kinda perfect.
this is for the pre-work crowd.
Yeah,
7 a.m. you get up.
right. Like how long
So-
does that take? 3
so
miles? It's
3
like
miles,
less than
3
an hour,
miles will be
right?
an hour and
How many hours?
hour and 10 minutes
Okay, yeah.
at a regular pace. The typical pace is for me that I'm comfortable with energetic. I mean, there's a few.
Yeah, what's
Energetic, you know, like,
CLMP?
it's like
That may be one of the Title III.
What is that?
a
What does
regular
that stand
pace.
for, CLMP?
So that's Cleveland, Cleveland Metro Park. is the
Oh, okay.
Rocky River Reservation.
Yeah.
So all these have, there's a little abbreviation at the bottom. So at the bottom there's.
Oh, it gives you like the key.
There's the
Yeah,
codes.
yeah,
But you
okay.
can see how diverse it is. I love Cuyahoga Valley. I do a
Oh,
lot
it's so
there.
gorgeous.
And then
And
north.
you know what? That's one of those. I know there's some like really major hikes in there that like I've been like, oh, that'd be really fun. Like every year they'll like, here's our like hiking challenge for
Mhm.
the year.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I'm not comfortable to go out and just straight on my own, or even with like one other person.
you
You know, like,
This is
so
great.
that's awesome.
I'll watch out for each other.
Yeah.
Judge said about it.
You can bring your dog. Dogs have to go in there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, let's see.
Ah, how fun.
I like.
It's a hidden, another hidden gem in Cleveland.
And this obviously was the, but it was still.
It's part of the.
Oh.
I feel like it's like under you.
It is.
They had this
I mean,
I
my,
don't know, I have to hear
That
more
goes
about
on for-
it. So they'll have-
Oh, for sure.
that's
Yeah.
the best investment.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
And then I think I said.
And I've learned.
It was really super.
Such a.
Oh, that's funny. I just went there for the first time a couple weeks
Is that
ago
right?
because I have a friend who lives sort of down that way. We were trying to figure out where to meet up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a nice
Who
park.
knew, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So they have those hidden gym parks. They also have city parks.
No time.
So
Oh, nice. All right.
But we're just clarifying one person.
there's a hike through Asia.
Oh, that was so
There's
cool.
a hike through Egypt.
Oh, where did that part of the evening?
Hike around.
Yeah, we were at that part.
This would be so hard. I'd want to stop and get food at like every restaurant you
Well,
pass.
what they do is at the end of the hike, there's a restaurant.
Oh,
And some people just
perfect.
go to
Stay
take
neat.
that over.
Yeah.
You go to Egypt, which I've never been around.
Oh. Did you do that one?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So
Just-
when was that?
I did that earlier this summer.
Because there was like their whole,
It
you
was
know,
late last year.
they
actually.
bought, the Metro Parks bought that, like the, what's it, like mobile home park.
Is that you? Oh,
It's
I know what
'cause
you're
it- but I
talking
don't
about.
know that it's like,
It's
it's,
a-
I think it's not right there.
It's
I think
across the
like-
street, or
is
it's
it?
near
Okay.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Because they're gonna turn it into like basically add to Metro Park, right?
You still with us, Kathy?
No, I'm gonna have to leave soon.
All these historical displays.
Dying.
This was a ride. He was here. Here was the former owner.
Interesting.
And then it's all beachfront.
Yeah.
So you have that, and we have a great view of the city.
Yeah.
And then one thing that amazed me, so down a little further east, there's this residential community.
Oh, you totally would have. Yeah.
The houses look like they're out of Shaker Heights.
Oh my gosh.
And it's
Is this in Euclid?
It's in,
Or,
must be in Euclid.
yeah.
But it's like,
We,
what's
yeah.
Where did it
this?
come from, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully maintained homes and houses. I'm like, what is this?
And a lot of those, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but I know a lot of those streets have like beach clubs, right? at the
Yeah,
end.
this is an association. They have their own beach club.
Yeah.
Right on. right
No,
on the lake.
maybe we can demolish.
Huge big park. It's private. So some developer 100 years ago.
Yeah.
My
says.
husband always says, I'll see you tomorrow, because there's zero chance of that ever happening.
You need to add a third.
I know.
Even for
See,
some of the
you
short
call me
ones.
out.
What time does C turn in?
3 right
I mean,
there.
well, when he goes to
I
bed.
don't think that'll make a difference, but.
So he'll go to bed.
We want to be covered.
Yeah.
Sure, by 10, 9:30.
But I,
At least
you know, if you
that's
have a
really good.
free morning.
At
to
any
shop
given
from
time,
these
he
people,
found
you know,
Awesome. I
you
like
walk
that.
in, It's not.
I wish I had
Not
that
for
power.
Jeopardy, but not much after that.
Very cool.
And they even
I had the ability to do that.
cost $35 a year.
To what? Fall asleep?
And then if you hit a little.
Champion.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's
The
so
most
cute.
unbelievable thing.
That's
And,
great.
yeah.
It's a great,
And
it's been a
my
great
son takes
diversion.
after him.
So
Yeah.
it's just- and it- I love
And
that.
to
No
too
reservations.
much, like he,
Show up, right?
he won't wake up sometimes.
Hmm.
It's a little scary.
Well, I'm sorry that I started yawning.
This is why I don't have
I stopped myself.
John.
This is like
I brought it up on
Yeah,
Saturday.
There's so much to do.
I know.
Oh, you came in from Pittsburgh.
And these, even North Sugar, North Sugar's a big.
Good man.
But I discovered some
Takes care of
new
me sometimes.
people took us in different
That's
directions that
great.
I wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a, in Curtin, there's an old Mormon settlement.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
Yeah, I think it's.
So we have a hike lady who's a Mormon.
Oh, my gosh.
He did a historical tour. So he
Oh,
had
that's-
the history of.
they're gonna- that's what they're gonna-
Yeah.
And took us to the park where all the stones were cut through the
What's
building.
the
All right,
station?
I'm gonna go back.
You know?
Or maybe it's a county.
Oh, like a
Like a geography
Lake
park,
District
or like, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I grew up in Benner, so obviously
Oh,
right
yeah,
next to
okay.
Kirtland.
Yeah.
And it was, I just remember like growing up.
Something might come up.
Didn't think anything would happen. There were like a decent amount of Mormons at
Yeah.
school, and then you like go out to the road and realize like, oh, there are like no Mormons.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had like, you know,
What's
handful of them at high
But that
school.
historical village house.
Yeah.
on every tree,
No.
It's, they have a recreation of the
Oh my gosh.
because this is where.
And it's because they were all on his
Joseph
property.
Smith, the founder,
Mhm.
lived in sort of. Isn't
Isn't that crazy?
It was crazy.
Yeah,
Like they stopped there longer than any place else.
yeah.
They had like
$100,000 for a tree.
these buildings that had either been restored or recreated, either one. This is where Joseph Smith.
That's cool.
All this stuff like.
Yeah.
There's some quiet here.
Right, right.
And I just read that, have you seen the temple?
I mean, only from the street, like I've never like gone in. Well, you can't go in.
You know, the beauty of this
But it's this huge. immaculate.
Yeah.
my
But I guess
battery.
at some point, 100 years ago, Mormonism split.
Still is
Historical village.
Isn't that amazing?
I know, mine's old and.
More dominant
I
Mormons.
took out a new card. It has a charger in it, but it's like.
Temple.
Oh, yeah, that's great, yeah.
Like, oh, hey, welcome to the future.
That's right.
So my daughter, hers is always like.
Yeah, check it out. You got a free
So
morning.
it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just leave it there. We're good.
Oh.
Meeting goes much longer. This won't come to work. Oh, told Just keep adding the drive time.
I actually enjoyed
Taking longer to.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Must be some hanging chairs.
Obvious choice, Richard.
Yeah, why didn't you take your first?
I'm like, so you said like 11 hours while you drive? You work the whole. I mean,
Yeah, right.
But the Guardian line,
Oh, that's awesome.
and my mother, she doesn't want.
Right.
See, look at that.
Yeah. There's a 10-minute conversation.
Oh, no worry.
I could have walked pretty far and come back.
No worries.
You leave. They kept.
Oh, she did. She started drinking.
Oh, we do, so what are we doing here? Are we talking?
Yeah, we're just gonna talk through it.
Discuss.
We're not gonna vote.
It would be total chaos. I would agree. I'd show up and be like, what are
I'm
you
just
doing?
gonna go through and get everyone's opinion because I don't have this discussion. Kind of crystallize my concern.
It's chaos.
This is your,
Wipers on back.
Yeah. And they all,
Pots are boiling over.
and all the people knew it too.
It's funny just the fact that
It's
they
always
just
the
got
list.
random
Because, you know,
emails
I always
or
think
like
like
see people and it's like all of a sudden they would talk to me. I'm
It's,
like finally getting, and I'm like, guess what? We're gonna. Yeah.
Whoever's on it.
But it's like,
Oh, yeah.
We have enough of a core group.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how I used to always go. Well, Scott would go early when their office was downtown. So he would make
That's-
it
yeah.
right down all the way to their house. You're not even like that.
No.
But
it must be a tie.
I kind of enjoyed that. You know, down north where
Yeah.
cutting around the University School and
Yeah.
and taking I actually would keep them surprising.
I have none married.
It would be.
Oh my gosh, really? How old are your kids?
They've made it down north.
Right.
But then people don't tend to drive there,
Okay.
which is interesting.
But one is getting married this fall.
Oh, good, okay.
The girl we love.
Great.
So we're very.
Is the wedding
Go
here?
to the Cleveland
It's
Clinic,
here,
that's
it's a
why.
Hillbrook Club.
That's just it. Yeah.
So she's from here too. They both were in New York. They're both lawyers.
Yeah.
We moved back about 3 months ago.
Yeah, where.
Wait, was he living with, are they still living with you guys?
No.
They found a place?
Yeah, yeah.
They were living.
And then you're.
He was.
And then
He
you're.
was, okay.
Because he was the first one back and his job was Sherwin Williams.
Okay.
She came about a month later, but they
Okay.
found
Ready.
living in that too. Right at the top of the hill.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right at
Well,
the-
good.
Great.
Yeah.
Rooftop.
Oh, I bet.
It's all
I hit 3 of them in a
And
row.
it's just
Not
like
the
great,
first
you
batter,
get to so many cool
whatever,
things
third,
so
fourth,
easily.
Katie, who was working for the New York law firm,
Shaker.
working for
Oh, yeah.
she loves that. She can walk around.
Seems like
Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, everything's right
It's a
there.
trade.
And they moved.
They are lovely.
Oh, yeah. We've taken that like once or twice.
It was pretty efficient.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I believe it. Yeah.
I was surprised, but
I was surprised because there were a few houses in our neighborhood that were on the market for, maybe not long, like 2-3 weeks. And we were all like,
Yeah,
what's
because
taking
that
so
puts
long?
you at-
Yeah.
Because you're used to
Yeah.
things going like that.
Wins or whatever.
But yeah, where are they looking generally?
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they were,
They're gonna,
they were lights out there.
God willing, kids
Yeah.
right away. So
Oh,
I'm
gotcha.
anticipating.
They're
about-
Yeah, they have. Okay.
He's 30, he'll be 31
They're
this fall.
They have.
And she's the exact same age. They
Yeah.
both graduated from Case.
White Sox.
She was a year ahead.
Okay.
especially this year.
Brendan, you're marrying up.
Yeah, good
You
job,
know that,
right?
you know that, Brendan, right? You're marrying way up.
I mean, how nice for them though. She's working at her New York firm, getting her New York salary. That's amazing.
They love her.
Where is she from?
University.
Oh, so she grew up here too?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I love the parents.
Nice.
All's well.
That's nice.
God willing, the other 3 children find this wonderful spouse.
Seriously. And then how is he liking Sherwin-Williams so far?
He does.
That's great.
boss, great atmosphere. Very
Good.
supportive.
Again, past my bedtime.
I told him I really wanted to, he always did. He said,
This is many in a row.
2 years.
Yeah.
The plan was 3 or
We have
4.
to start some stamina training of staying up.
Get your legs under you, kind of.
Person.
When he just came out.
It just was.
It's still,
Right.
yeah, they-
Goes no
it's still better than going back.
Yeah.
Securities and M&A, it's just what I do.
That's great.
I might have hit snooze until 5:40, but
He interviewed.
Did he work prior to law school? Or did he go straight through?
He went, yeah, he worked prior to law school in New York.
Okay.
I'm
He
more
was
of
an
a
executive recruiter
Oh my gosh.
for lawyers.
I'll leave it there.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That would be pretty, that would be, I can see that being like a interesting job.
Yeah.
You don't want to stick around to see how we vote on
Kind of a
street
scrappy
striping
Agree
program?
with the walk.
place in some lawyers. and
Are you sure?
Okay.
So I did that for 2 years and then decided to go to law school.
Fair
Come
enough.
Back here. So he's rebounded like 3 times.
Yeah.
But all's
Is
in
that
all.
you guys keep taking? Yeah, part of me thinks, you know, just with, like my
You know that
trading.
all 3 of my kids work for Sherwin-Williams. All 3 of my
I think
boys.
I do. I think, yeah, I remember you saying
Yeah.
that. No, but just with, like, just having like a trading background, I feel like I should like merge. You know the two?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't, and you're excited about it. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that background in registered securities. I did a lot of that.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
It doesn't sound very
fun.
interesting. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of contracts.
The M&A work is much better.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
Floating schedule. And it never floats as well. He's floating another way.
Yeah.
And then, okay, can a press release say this,
Uh,
this?
Kill me.
Can the 10K say this or this?
Yeah.
And you have endless debates over, okay, how would your average investor perceive these words versus these words?
There's lots of
And then
brains.
there's
Nothing's
zero upsets. It's
Right.
one of those
Yeah.
regulatory things where all you can do is fail.
Just serve for 1 minute.
And so you're like, okay.
Your work
Was it-
gets any
Was
attention.
that a forward looking statement we need to correct or not?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that doesn't sound great.
Yeah, I eventually got, we had someone who specialized in this.
Yeah.
We're big enough to do that.
Yeah.
What else? Your trading partner, Linda.
Yeah, I guess I just almost
I
like,
wonder how
just like Samaritans like that, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, there's like,
Mm.
you know.
Oh, he did.
Or maybe it's just
Okay.
the backtrack afraid of numbers.
I like the fact.
Yeah.
I like calculations.
Interesting.
What do you think? John?
You know, and it's like, it's not scary.
I wonder what, yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know.
I mean, it's something to think about as you poke around.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna do like legal aid or pure public
Right.
interest.
Yeah, if I was gonna go over to the dark side.
Go over to the dark side, right? Securities are kind of what?
Yeah.
It's curious because Brendan's fiance Katie does import export policy. That's what she does.
That goes away.
Like, how
It's
do
a
you?
niche for
And you got one, what's the one we gotta go to review is this
Yeah,
one
it
here.
just happened to be.
Oh, your land rents.
Yeah.
Right, and then I got and street striping is nothing. I mean, it's, you need to, how much is?
Primary is, okay, we have this container stuck at the port. So
How do
the
you get it
the-
out?
the retailer or the business or whatever.
Yeah.
says,
Yeah,
They
retail
look
tax
at
is very expensive.
Uniform codes to,
In the low
is
20s.
this,
Yeah.
you're putting rubber or you're putting glass or putting
That's our cost over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
that's really down and dirty. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That's
see,
big.
she loves it.
We're at 40
That's
here.
great.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What that is.
I thought
Yeah.
it was pretty big.
Yeah.
That's great that they're like.
Yeah, look at that.
When you put that.
That's what, yeah, that's what it is.
Materials cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other guys.
Yeah.
We can never- Yeah, stick it in.
Oh, I didn't think
The only thing they're not.
Your
gonna do-
thing.
That works?
It's you.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing, like, like the first day there was, you know, like
I
a
think there was only
rape, and so it was like the whole like sort of not criminal, obviously, not like the school like that. And I'm doing, you know, some sort of property
It's hard.
contract, like,
Yeah.
you know, all
Great.
across the board. It's just really cool because it's like, you get to figure out what I like.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it's
Good
good
experience.
experience. Their general counsel is this woman, she's just like amazing. She's actually, she's a Pepper Pike resident too, Sonali Wilson. She's awesome. Just like super connected, super plugged in. It's just like the people in like the downtown.
I always thought of that as kind of a lot of it. University.
Yeah.
Sounds like
I mean,
a broader experience.
I was an intern for, 10 weeks, like,
Okay.
so who
Yeah,
knows?
but you got a
But
flavor,
you
you
know,
got a
I
taste.
think, yeah, I think it's kind of, yeah, a little bit of everything, which is nice.
Trying to. It's because they can't get the staff, and they need to get their staff.
What is this? How long is this?
Yeah. Part of town.
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
Should we set like reinforcements? Scott, what's happening over there? What's
Hmm?
going on?
I'm reading this study, interesting, but it was also done in 2012.
yeah, that's. And it's really
There were,
What other factors?
yeah, but they weren't really as
a good spot.
reflective.
And that was the worst.
Yeah, no,
So-
all it actually
and-
rides.
Old data.
Rides over. There's a couple of little chuckles.
Is there a hanging chat?
Lander to.
We have people who don't know.
Oh, no.
Did you come up with different totals?
That was a simple fix.
Get some fault.
We could have done this when I shared.
Yeah.
That's never your.
Yeah.
And I
Automatically.
agreed with it before,
Well, and I was just saying, we want to make sure we all board at the right amount.
before they did. I just said, I'll take that out. We talked about that. didn't we?
The speed of this,
Wider gutter.
the speed of this meeting.
I'm
so
sure
going-
it is.
You can't do it by the business, but before tapers, or as it tapers, we can add. We can add.
They were hanging out there for a while.
The tuned, here it is.
I mean, I wasn't getting confronted either. like-
Land Road's on dedicated.
I always- I always-
Yeah,
yeah, I told you
but-
that.
It's right there. It does create some protection.
Yeah, we could. And the road's plenty wide.
Yeah, I gotta check the weights. It could be 30 feet. Could go 5.
I just thought
People
somebody
don't know
should
what they're
know.
doing.
True, but
I'm not- I would
that'd be nice.
Well, you
I could.
might
You could go home and hop on YouTube and watch it. You could probably be home before we announce it, Richard.
Do you know what the,
That's it.
go to the library.
You did hear,
Download
yeah,
it.
we're live streaming
You're
here.
going to the library. so
No, that's false news.
do you
even though-
know what the password is?
You know what, I wonder if it'll show it. I wonder if it's in,
Violated. Attention.
do you know where I would find it? Because I know.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like it's,
Is that from the beginning?
that's from the beginning of it. So we're not on.
Really? My uncle had that. I don't think that was him, but he had a lot of.
Good.
And his son actually.
The mics are hot. So
You have like a low bed.
All right.
You don't have anything on there right now, so.
He's going on vacation.
Not for.
Probably won't be.
If we're gonna do it,
I could add
we should plan. Let me take a look, just to double check our measurements. start and end points and stuff.
Yeah. And then we'll just add it. Well, add it in on the page.
Yeah.
So it's not our guy anyways.
Right,
It's
yeah,
gonna be Global 9.
right, because I'll just have to do it, charge us something.
Right. So they'll be painting.
The center one.
Soon.
Earlier in the evening, we should have.
I'll interrupt for one second. I'm gonna ask you, I talked to you about the mailbox situation there, because it's gonna have to be something back up the street. Can you, if would pay you, is that something that's offered to residents?
Put in the mailbox?
Yeah.
Yep.
If we supply the mailbox, you do that as well. What's the charge?
$70.
Okay.
So the whole total usually is, well, if we supply the mailbox, it's like $155 because the mailboxes are 60-something. They actually went up quite a bit due to COVID for some guy, crazy ass reason. So when we don't supply the mailbox, we just, all the rest is.
Okay,
So-
and you can take the old post out,
Take the old, we'll pull out the old.
and that's all it's doing. Definitely want you to do that.
But it's definitely a deal.
Yeah, it is.
It's a good deal, and it gets done right. If
Yeah.
there's a problem, they'll come back and fix it.
And then when I hear I just put this mailbox in, it would say, yeah, 7 years ago.
And you know how far away from the road to put it on?
They'll set it for
They set it
the
back.
postal service.
But then, as long as there's no ditch that affects. That's the showstopper, is when you got the ditch.
Yeah, you're okay.
It's almost empty.
Right.
But you're good because you don't.
I think, am I right? I think the guy said that they are replacing the culvert pipe.
Your driveway, yeah.
And, does that mean that it's apron too?
No, we're just gonna put it back in
Catch this one.
Yeah.
They're gonna go.
We tried to sneak that in.
No, they'll rip it out, they'll put a new culvert pipe, put the stone back in, and then put a new layer of asphalt.
And which type of pipe do you use?
It's corrugated metal pipe.
This guy was, because I was talking about pipe.
What are you doing?
Talking about that they do have something
You have like a double wall poly. Yeah, it's called the N12. Just that you can't get enough cover over them typically.
Totally.
Don't really work well. I show you driveways where people have the pipe, it's always that pipe.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk. You'll see that.
Yeah. The corrugated metal pipe. People say, oh, these things rust out. Yeah, after about 50 or 75 years, which is, we have polyethylene pipe, it's not put down far enough, properly bedded. Sometimes you have to put bands down to tie it down so it doesn't float. If you think about it, it's like a tennis ball. It distorts. But when it distorts, it goes high. This little gravel works its way down. And it may not be that much initially, but over time it starts to float out. Like, how's that pipe floating? Well, I'm pressing it down and releasing it every time a car or truck goes in. And eventually, a little fine gravel builds up underneath and it starts.
That makes sense.
Corrugated metal, it doesn't happen.
And then the big storm comes and the whole thing pops up out of the.
Right, because it's light and it kind of gets float out that way too.
Speaking of storm, they did all the, scraping off the top, and then put a little bit of,
Gravel, just, yeah.
Just so you could get over.
Yeah, it only hit like a tiny area of the map, like right on us.
So we had to get out there and double stuff. And we were the only ones that really got affected.
It was just a perfect storm, so to speak.
Way to play for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, call Rachel. And tell her- tell
And it doesn't matter what kind of house.
We are putting a, if you're gonna buy, depends on what you're gonna buy. Most of them have a 4x4. Some of them slide on top. Some, you know, so some you warm 4x4. I have one. The 4x4 comes up.
Okay, you got a little one.
It has a plastic sleeve. It looks bigger. It really looks nice. It's a really nice steel box. It really looks good. We bought it online. I'll look for it.
You can find a link.
No, I'm not. I got it on. Maybe I might have got it. Remember, I was looking at it. So I'll figure out where I got it.
Yeah, Lowe's is a decent selection, some, or they used to. Home Depot, it's also, but there's fancy every now and then.
Yeah, and mine is really black and white. It's nice looking. It's got the good caps on. It's got an
Okay.
We don't have snow anymore.
Yeah, right.
Nothing for them.
Winter's a thing of the past.
It's like, yeah.
Well, at least hopefully it'll get a little winter. So I can get rid of some salt. But it's fine. No problem. It's funny, I was coming back from North Carolina. I'm passing all the state for that. Maybe every one of them has a mountain of salt underneath. Tarps.
Yeah.
You know, their irons are coming out.
Are we done?
Yeah. It's pretty.
Yeah, I'm okay. But everybody's done.
Do we have final numbers?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do this year.
Just fix that?
Yeah, somebody. Okay.
That was the big.
So I'm gonna reread two of the ballots because they were not totaled to the grand total.
Okay, good.
Mayor Bates' ballot. Let me get that rolling. Vera Barda Savage, 4. Scott Bilski, 5. Howard Bochnick, 7. Matt Dreyfus, 2. Dagmar Fellows, 1. Rob Gilmore, 8. Gary Hoffman, 9. Robert Resnick, 3. And Matthew Vazana, 6. Jim LeMay, Howard Bochnick, 9. Cindy Eichhoff, 6. Dagmar Fellows, 4. Rob Gilmore, 5. Gary Hoffman, 2. Stephanie Jarrett, 7. Robert Resnick, 8. And Jeremy Rezepka, 1. And
There we go.
Matthew Vazana, 3.
Why were we rereading those?
Because they weren't computing to the full total. There
We
was
doubled
numbers
up, we
missing.
doubled up numbers and missed
Oh,
numbers.
you shorted her. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay, with that complete, we have our 9. I'll read them in alphabetical order, the top 9. Scott Bilski, Howard Bochnick, Cindy Eichhoff, Dagmar Fellows, Gary Hoffman, Tamara Hernick, Stephanie Jarrett, and there you go. Wait,
No,
sorry, there's a few more, sorry. It's late. Robert Resnick, Matthew Vazana, and grand total. So that's it.
Okay. To our members of the new Charter Commission, we congratulate you and welcome you to the process. We will get more information out regarding organizational
Like to,
aspects for this.
I'd like to try to have the organizational meeting next Wednesday. We'll we'll just put that out there. Hopefully everybody can attend. It's not.
Yeah, it's not a council meeting. It's.
No, it's not. It's not. It's going to be the organizational meeting of the Charter Review Commission, which doesn't have to, it shouldn't coincide.
So
with
that's
the council meeting.
Wednesday,
The 31st.
the 31st. I think that makes sense, Tony.
Yeah.
We'll get a notice out to all those people and suggest that the 31st
Yeah.
be their first meeting they can organize.
Do you have any sort of process or procedure that you have planned for that meeting?
Yes, I have some written materials that I wanted to hand out and ask them to elect a chairperson and to discuss the idea of having the 3 groups of 3 to focus on certain areas, or whether they want to discuss, as a group of 9. And those are the things that we need to sort of sort out in the initial meeting. And I'll tell you what the written materials are, and I need Sheila to print them. I put together 6 different communities, the articles in alphabetical order, with Pepper Pike being first, and then Chagrin Falls, I think, and what their Article 1 is. So they are all in one place. So when you're looking at Article 1, and this is just a starting point. It's just a starting point because they'll be coming at this fresh, so they can see what other communities have done, and there are 6 others besides Pepper Pike.
And can you tell me how you chose those 6?
They're mostly because they were of similar size, mostly because they are part of the former Orange Township, and their initial charters were all written around the same time as ours.
Okay.
1966-ish. And then I'm going to suggest, and I actually have a list, and if people want me to pass it out, but council members and mayor can suggest questions to be answered. And if we had whatever questions people had that they wanted to answer, we could pass those out at that meeting as well.
And even more specific, I think it'd be a great idea for council members, staff members to propose questions or concerns, more than just questions like that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay,
That's
so
what I'm
like,
talking about.
please consider this issue, please consider this issue, so that,
Let me read you one.
Well, they're going to have just add to your list. I'm going to have to administer an oath of office to these people.
Okay. My first sample question is, should the Pepper Pike Charter include a provision that allows electronic participation in council meetings, including the ability of council members to vote? That's just a question that can be discussed, and that should be I think that's something that should be decided. Another one that's more mundane, if you will, should Pepper Pike Charter change the terms councilmen to members of council, and member of council, and members of council, so that we get rid of the gender specific things. Those are the types of things that I had. Some being more substantive and some being more cleanup.
Great.
I'm happy to share my list with
Yeah, why don't
you.
you go ahead and distribute that, that'd be
Okay.
Don't do it tonight, but
Well, I mean, I have it.
consider it afterwards.
Okay. All righty, we'll get that out. Let's move on. It's getting really late. Next is ordinance 2024-18 comes back up on the docket. That's what we had the presentation regarding earlier about the sidewalks. We had a lot of discussion with them. Do you feel a need to continue discussing tonight, Joe?
Yeah, no, what I'd like to do, we're not going to vote on this tonight, but what I'd like to do is, to the extent other council members had a chance to review this and have comments on wording, what I included, didn't include, any feedback on it at all, I would take that now. Otherwise, just to move down the road, and we're going to have a off schedule with Michelle and her council.
Right.
But other than that, though, I'm curious if any other reaction from council members that we could, I could put input, comments, questions on this, the current version. Nope.
Okay. Next, we're looking at a motion to approve the bid of DL Smith Concrete LLC for the Lander Road pedestrian trail. The bid tabs were submitted to council previously. Don, say anything about this?
No, I did recommend that we use DL Smith. Their base bid was $966,620. And based on that base bid being the lowest and best bid, it's my recommendation to go with them.
Any questions to Don?
Which one is, this is
the Lander Road, the concrete trail.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question, Don, because don't we have an alternate cost on the bottom when I was reading it? And so what does the alternate cost include? Because unless my math was wrong, when I put them together and I added in the alternate cost plus the bid, Herc was actually a little bit lower.
Yeah, I'm not recommending that we do the alternate.
Okay, but can you explain to me what the extra, like the 10,300?
Yes.
Would or would not include in the bid?
Yeah, we were looking for a way to make sure that we had an option to view what the sort of the clear concrete product would look like with just the clear coat on it.
Okay.
And so we broke out an item for them to go ahead and create a separate pour of that concrete so that we could look at it. And we also had a price differential for using the clear sealer as opposed to the white curing compound.
Okay.
For both of these bidders, the cost of the curing compound change was minuscule, $300.
Okay.
So not a factor.
Okay.
But if we want to go through the process of having them pour a small test section, one is more expensive than the other. I would not recommend doing that pour. Okay. So I would not recommend doing that piece. I talked to the low bidder and I said, he's like, it's kind of a waste. Why don't I just pour like the first 50 feet and everybody can look at it and do a small batch and just be part of the actual sidewalk, which to me makes more sense. We're not squandering if we have a really strong aversion to it, the alternative is to spray paint it, is to use the white curing compound. So I think it's a smart way for council to go forward to not do that bit. And therefore, that's why I'm recommending the low bidder. They're very close. We got really great prices on all this, very competitive.
Thanks for
Or under your projection?
Yes.
And just a quick question. I mean, it actually sounds like an interesting feature, but I'm just curious where the hardwood boardwalk piece.
I'm sorry, where the what?
It says hardwood boardwalk.
That's not on this. That's the next one.
Oh, that's the next one.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
I'm jumping ahead.
Yes.
All right, you're right. That's the Gates Mills one.
Yes.
All right, that's what I'm going to ask you about.
Okay.
So what we're asking for approval is to do the sidewalk with the clear coat, just not the test patch.
Correct.
Okay.
And I do have one other question, just because it came up on when we were discussing the Gates Mills Trail. And I looked up the name of it, the truncated dome mat, which is the little walkway.
Yes.
Do we know what color and what material we're using? I didn't see anything specifically in the bid relating to it.
Yeah,
so
it's not something that shows up in the item, but in
Okay.
the curb ramp, we have spec'd out the cast iron metal.
Okay,
frame.
so
it's not a bright orange or anything like that. They're very earthy looking. And,
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And they're the heavy duty ones that will last a long time.
Okay,
so
great.
Okay.
All right, any more? We have a motion to accept the bid.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Knoll?
yes.
Ms. Atrach?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Ms. Godin?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentili?
Yes.
All right, next, item 9, we have a motion to approve the bid of Northeast Ohio trenching for the Gates Mills Boulevard multipurpose trail. Don, can you tell us about that and tell us what the wood boardwalk is?
Well, yeah, I'll do a couple things. Well, again, Northeast Ohio Trenching, they are the low bidder by a decent amount. We do have a couple of alternates on that one as well. There's been a lot of discussion about what would it actually cost to continue either the trail the wider trail north to go to the north entrance of Ursuline College, or potentially do it as a sidewalk. We got alternate pricing just so that we know if we choose to do those things, what those things might cost. So those are the alternates that are on this bid. We don't have to make any decision on those alternates now, but I wanted to get that information to council so they had that information if we decide we want to be able to service the residents, say on Ainsworth, so that they can get onto the trail.
So this would have the 10-foot wide asphalt up to the first entrance.
The south entrance of Ursuline,
Ursuline.
correct.
Which is that's the main driveway, right?
I think they're kind of equal. I mean, they do have a sign there, but they also have a sign on the north entrance too. So that is the grant. That is the path, the
For the
trail.
grant.
That's where the trail ends for
Okay.
the grant.
Okay.
But as far as the rest of the trail, we provided an alternate for the contractors to bid what it would cost to continue that on to the north, both in either an asphalt 10 feet wide to match the trail, or if you wanted to make it narrower and go with the concrete, we got that.
Regular sidewalk.
Right, we could do it either way, or we could do nothing, but I wanted to get the prices so that you'd have real numbers, and if we decided to go ahead and do that, the contractor would already have those bid numbers in there.
What does that join up to when you get up there?
Well, you're at their north driveway. If you're walking on their campus and you could loop around, you could loop around on their drive.
But you
That's
could
right.
actually loop around internally in the campus.
Yes, you can, but this would be if you were walking along Lander, or somebody they were on campus and wanted to do a big loop or run around. Or whatever. It's right by the tennis courts. It's kind of where that is.
A good thing one thing that's driving this a lot is actually, I don't know how many of you have been. I can't go to one of our events that somebody who lives in Ainsworth doesn't come up to me and say, "Why are you stopping short of Ainsworth?" And I said, "Well, talk to Don," said, "Get a bid, as an alternate, let's see what it is." And just aesthetically, it doesn't make a lot of sense to necessarily stop this walkway in the middle of a lawn when there's a driveway entrance just a short distance still farther. So Don designed it to go
right,
to the driveway.
and we could always stop at Ainsworth too if that was the desire.
Sure.
But we have unit prices for what that piece would cost. So there's a lot of ways we could slice this. I just wanted to get those numbers so that we have options.
We don't have to
It just,
decide
this would,
tonight
this
about
would
it.
pay for almost all of our trees on Gates Mills that, we're hesitant
Right.
to buy.
Yeah, we don't have to decide.
I mean, this would
Yeah.
pay for a lot of trees.
Well, we haven't seen any drawings or anything of this going beyond where the trail ends today. That wasn't in your prior.
It's actually in the plans that we left off, because we did show that as an alternate.
As an alternate.
Yeah.
But in terms of your presentations.
No, it's not part of the presentation, but it's just good information, I think, to have. What we're trying to get, we'd like to award the bid to the low contractor. We would have a little bit of time if we decided we wanted to do it, so that he could plan for it. But that does not in any way need to be decided tonight. I just wanted to give you the information so you had it.
So and that is, if the low bidder on this project was,
Northeast Ohio Trenching Service, the number was $1,063,540. And that was about $90,000 below the
Okay,
estimate.
okay. So that, all you need tonight is that.
That gets us rolling. If we choose to do the alternate or some portion of it, we have the numbers. We can
Okay.
actually determine exactly what it would cost,
Okay.
not let's ask the contractor for a
Yeah.
price. We already have the numbers.
Yeah, I guess I want to kind of visually think about that.
Yeah, this is new, and clearly this is new
Yeah.
information, but I
Okay.
just wanted to know that
Right.
we had the options.
Yeah.
But we did, in our mailer to the residents, just because I pulled it to see like what our numbers, what your estimates were compared to what we actually got back. And we did, for Lander Road, we did mention the Fairmont to Cedar was part of that.
Mhm.
And it was $350,000 that
And
we were
where's it stop?
looking at, which, I
Right
mean,
there.
these are
So that's.
kind of in that ballpark.
They're really pretty consistent with that.
Yeah, with what we were initially thinking the total cost of the Lander Road was. This is just happening to get lumped into Gates Mills instead of Lander Road,
Right.
right? Like that's
Yeah, and just,
understanding that correctly?
yes, and I think, well, the project wise, but
Right.
but I think for us too, because one of the options was an asphalt path, we wanted to get that number from this contractor because they are installing an asphalt path already. So there's some economies of scale for that
Okay.
It's 35 houses from about
on Ainsworth.
Ainsworth, and then that stretch of Lander from the first Ursuline entrance up to Ainsworth.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And this is for the base. right?
Base, yes.
Right, for the 106, yeah, okay, great.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atrach?
Yes.
Ms. Weltman?
Yes.
Ms. Godin?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Okay. God, I feel like I have to ask Chief Dietz to say something. He's been sitting here all night. I'm teasing you, sir. I'm teasing you. I think everyone's done with committee.
No,
Wait,
we
wait,
got,
we gotta
Yeah,
motion
street
to award
striping.
the-
Striping.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet?
Striping.
Okay. Could we have a motion to award the city's 2024 street striping program to Pat Flowers, Inc.?
So
Jo-
moved.
Can you
Okay.
tell us something about this?
Yeah, did we get any documents about it?
They're going with white and yellow this year.
This is for the annual street striping for,
Same company that did it
Yeah.
last time.
same company did it last year and probably the last 3 years. It's consistently the low bidder. This is for all the street striping throughout the city, which means stop bars, center lines, edge lines, school zones, onlys, turn
Bike
arrows,
lanes.
bike lanes.
How many bids did you get?
2,
Only 2.
only 2.
There's only 2 or 3 companies.
Yeah, there's only
that
about
really
3
do it.
companies and one of them's.
That's not good. right?
Well, fortunately, they're very competitive. Pat Flowers was the low bidder by $1,000. So they're both in the ballpark.
Total bid is,
40,123.
Do you know how that compared with last year? Have they raised the prices a lot?
Last year was 35,278. The year before that was 32,738.
And does
Is
that
that-
increase the amount of striping or is it the same?
It's increasing because of the cost of the paint. We generally do the same amount. Last year, we busted out South Woodland because we were paving it. This year,
Sometimes
we
there's a couple,
busted
yeah,
out Pine
pine
Tree
trees out.
because it's getting paved. So
who's the competitor?
JD Striping.
There's a couple others.
There's a
that-
Cyril Mark I called.
Go into the painting business if you don't like it.
There's
So they
there's other
decided that
ones.
Pat
yeah.
Flowers is our supplier.
He does them.
Okay.
There's others.
There's
Well,
yeah.
because we bid these in all of the towns and there's 2 or 3 others.
Some don't want to
that
go too far away.
They don't want to go too far from their home base. So wherever their overlaps are, it's all you're driving around in a truck and spraying paint.
Go out about 2 in the morning and you find them
Okay.
all over the place.
Any more questions? Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No,
No,
I
I
just
thought you-
moved, I just moved to vote on it.
She
I
moved
don't
the
hear
vote
anything
already.
anymore.
I just.
Did you
voted to
second it,
vote.
Emmy?
Sure, I will.
Sure.
I already did, but that's
Or
okay.
did you?
Yeah, let's vote.
Doesn't
All
matter.
right,
It's
hold
on.
Bill. Let me just jot this down real quick. All right, Mr. Newell.
Yes.
Ms. Atrach.
Yes.
Ms. Weltman.
Yes.
Ms. Godin.
Yes.
Mr. Lemay.
Yes.
Mr. Gentile.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you can do committees.
All right. We don't have anything more to say, guys. Do we?
Just pavement maintenance program is underway. So they're milling streets and paving. And you'll see a lot of stuff.
Good. Thank you. We had a finance meeting tonight. Jim?
We did have a finance committee meeting. The only interesting came out of that was the comparison of income tax year over year between this year and last year, falling behind relative to last year, but it was an unusual month Joe reported last year, so it may be wash out over the period of time. We're still ahead of budget on total income tax collections. and our general fund continues to have a strong reserve. So good shape.
Okay. Thank you. The next, we had and I'm glad that several of our councilmen were able to be there. We had a wonderful party in the park last week. I'm happy to report we had over 200 people come and attend. It was, I think, wildly successful for our first party in the park like that. The band was fantastic if you were not there to hear them. It was a very nice ad for our Centennial Summer to have them. It was such a nice ad. I anticipate we are going to add that to our rotation and have another party in the park next summer.
The band really was great.
That was a great band. And I have to say, tons of credit to our service and department and our Centennial Committee for getting behind it. But special kudos to Rachel Garrett in service, who she found that band, and we basically created a party in the park in 2 weeks when we realized what a great band it was. You know, this is more than music in the park. Thank you to Rachel for that great effort on her part. Our next Centennial big event is August 18th. So you can look forward to that. That will be what you formerly knew in other years as the Ice Cream Social, is the Centennial Social. And it's basically just a bigger, better version of the Ice Cream Social. But it should be terrific. And we'll have some things to talk about as we get closer to that. I don't have anything else. Council? You don't have anything, do you? Council? Good. Council's quiet. Audience? You don't have anything to say. No. All right. You stand adjourned. Good. We're gonna have to have this meeting down, Tony, we're gonna have to have that meeting down in the downstairs.
Yeah.
We're gonna have an elevator.